All right, we are live. Welcome. This is Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. Show this out, show this out, show this out. All right, it's Friday night. Law of One. Welcome, everybody. Right? Sorry, I'm running here trying to get things moving here. I didn't even have time to adjust my camera. I'm going to have to do that right quick here. Before I put my camera up for you guys to see, my head's missing off the top here. Let me fix that. I'm a little off kilter, but I think that'll work. Let me take the screensaver down on the top over here. The overlay. Where's my overlay? There it is. There you go. Yeah, I'm a little crooked there. Let me pull myself up into full screen here, and I'll readjust it. No, I think I'm all right. I'm off a little bit here from center. A little off from center. Well, that'll work. Okay, welcome, everybody. Let me go back over here to the comments. I can see you guys here. Denise, welcome. Cassie, welcome. I was trying to get food in. I was running a little bit late trying to get food in and get something for my mom to watch, which is probably too loud in the background. I apologize for that. I got to reset the sound on that television. I'll do that in a minute when we get moving here. So it's Friday night. Law of One. Welcome, Reese. If I miss anybody, if you don't say hello in the chat, I don't know you're here. I just see numbers, right? So, yeah, running around trying to get everything going today, working in the background, and I was trying to get everything in order here, and I think I got everything going here. It looks like I'm live everywhere. Okay, so show this out, get everybody in here. All right, so I didn't even have a chance to prime completely the Law of One, so I'm in the wrong place. Let me see over here where I'm at. I don't even know where I'm at. I'll be honest with you, so I'm going to have to prime it as we go, guys. I apologize for that. That's how much I was running, trying to get that and food in me and mom and get something for mom to watch on television there. And I didn't have a chance to get back to where we're supposed to be, so I'm going to have to prime that as we go. So I backed up quite a bit because we're on question 20. I think we're going to go to 18. I think I'm on question 10 right now. So let me find out where we are, and we'll adjust that. So we'll do a sound check, and we'll go ahead. Denise, thank you for tagging everybody in here to get them in here. We'll go ahead and I'll do the sound check and find out where I am, and then we'll start adjusting that up to a few questions and back to where we were, okay? And Cassie, thank you for also doing that and tagging some people and getting them in here. Let me start with playing. We'll do a sound check with the Law of One. We're on session 79, but I don't know what question we're on. I'm going to try and get us up to about 12 or 14 or 15. If I can get us past that quickly, I'll do that, and then we'll go from there. Otherwise, I'll just let it play at some point here, you know what I mean, to get us back up to the spot. Let me find out where we're at, okay?
By doing this to allow the conscious mind greater freedom under the first distortion by partitioning, you might say, the individualized portions of this from the potentiator or unconscious which had a greater communication with the total mind, therefore allowing for, you might say, the birth of uneducated, to use a poor term, portions of consciousness. Is this correct? Raw, I am raw. This is roughly correct. 79.25 questioner.
See, I'm too far ahead. No, that's all right. Let's back up then. That's better. I thought I was like in question 10. Let's see where we are here. So I apologize for that.
Could you expand even more upon the matrix of the mind, the potentiator, and the stated, the matrix, 19th on of the spirit? Is this correct? Raw, I am raw. This is incorrect. 79.19 Questioner.
All right, so that's good. So that didn't take me very long to throw it there. I'm going to back up a little bit. Just because we were on 20, I'm going to back up for another question or two here, and we'll go from there. Okay, let's see where we're at here.
There were 9. 79.15 Questioner.
All right, so I'll let it play from right here on 15 because we were on 20, but I wanted to back up to like 18 and just then I stopped at 19. So we'll go ahead and start it at 15 and then kind of let it play. Hopefully you guys can hear it okay because nobody said anything in the chat. So I don't know if you can hear it. I'll turn up the sound to where I think it should be. So you guys should be able to hear this because I have it shared. Okay, so let's try it here.
9 archetypes. I will guess that those 9 were 3 of mind, 3 of body, and 3 of spirit. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. 79.16 Questioner. I am going to guess that in the system of the tarot those archetypes would roughly correspond to, for the mind, the magician, the emperor, and the chariot. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is incorrect. 79.17 Questioner. Could you tell me what they correspond to? Ra. I am Ra. The body, the mind, and the spirit each contained and functioned under the aegis of the matrix, the potentiator, and the significator. The significator of the mind, body, and spirit is not identical to the significator of the mind, body, and spirit complexes. 79.18 Questioner. I now understand what you meant in the previous session by saying to extend free will the significator must become a complex. It seems that the significator has become the complex that is the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th of the mind, the 10th on of the body, and the 17th on of the spirit. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is incorrect. 79.19 Questioner. Could you tell me what you mean by the significator must become a complex? Ra. I am Ra. To be complex is to consist of more than one characteristic element or concept. 79.20 Questioner. I would like to try and understand the archetypes of the mind of this logos prior to the extension of the first distortion.
It's weird that Dawn just asked Ra that question about complex because he's been referring to the hive mind complex or the spirit, the pain body, the body, mind, spirit complex. And then even going further to saying totality prior to that. So he's talking about here the archetype complex, right? So it's weird that maybe he was just getting a clarification. I know he was doing that, but you would think that Dawn would understand the concept of what Ra was meaning by that prior to. But for those of you who just maybe started listening to me and you haven't heard any of it, or maybe you haven't even read the Law of One, a complex would be 2 or more items in unison or congruency of the 2 or more items. So if you're looking at balancing your chakras, plural, all 7 of your chakras, or balancing, a couple of them, then that would become, especially with all your chakras, it would become a totality when you are balancing all of your chakras along with your body. Then it would become a totality complex. If you're also balancing your body with your mind, your body, and your soul or your spirit, then it becomes a totality complex, because now it is complex. It is all of those things as one, not just a totality of one thing. So now you're becoming a totality plus a totality, which makes it a complex. Okay, so it's weird that Dawn would ask that question there, but I guess, for clarification, for people who maybe hadn't heard the rest or read the rest of the Law of One and maybe tune into this around the world, that's what Ross referring to when he refers to a complex or a totality in basic. All right, let's continue here.
In order to better understand that which we experience now, I believe that this is a logical approach. We have, as you have stated, the matrix, potentiator, and the significator. I understand the matrix as being that which is the conscious, what we call the conscious mind.
Energy, frequency, vibration. Again, the matrix, energy, place, tangible, place, physical body, energy, frequency, vibration. So it's still the same. So when you're looking at the key to the universe, energy, frequency, vibration, your totality is energy, frequency, vibration. Your chakras, 3, 6, and 9. Chakra, the number 1 chakra, red ray root, it's actually the 3rd chakra. And then your fourth chakra, which is actually your sixth chakra, and then your seventh chakra, which is actually your ninth chakra. Energy, frequency, vibration. Okay. Because vibration is when you are light. Light is not a physical body; it is light. So it is therefore, but energy in and of itself has the potentiation. If you're shining a light from one place to another, it's energy, it's frequency, and it's a vibration. But when you're going into the physical plane, you wouldn't understand that if I told you that. Once you get there, then it starts over again because everything is cyclical, and your light body is energy, frequency, vibration once again, but on a higher plane. But I don't want to get involved in that too much because most of you out there around the world are just starting to understand your energy, frequency, and vibration of this physical plane. So the matrices itself as the totality, so it is a complex, it is a totality. So it is energy, frequency, vibration, but in the context of the archetypes for your physical condition or your spiritual condition or both become what Ra is talking about in this instance of the matrix being the physical plane, and then going from there to the astral through the heart. So you're moving through energy, frequency, and vibration. Those three archetypes. Let's continue here.
Mind. But since it is also that from which the mind is made, I am at a loss to fully understand these three terms, especially with respect to the time before there was a division between conscious and unconscious. I think it is important to get a good understanding of these three things. Could you expand even more upon the matrix of the mind, the potentiator, and the significator, how they differ, and what their relationships are, please?
So welcome, Peter. See, again, the significators are, again, the same. So watch when Ra is talking, energy, frequency, vibration, see if you can see where those things fit in those archetypes that he's about to talk about with the clarification that Dawn's asking for.
Ra, I am Ra. The matrix of mind is that from which all comes. It is unmoving yet is the activator and potentiation of all mind activity. The potentiator of the mind is that great resource which may be seen as the sea into which the consciousness dips ever deeper and more thoroughly in order to create, ideate, and become more self-conscious. The significator of each mind, body, and spirit may be seen as a simple and unified concept. The matrix of the body may be seen to be a reflection in opposites of the mind, that is, unrestricted motion. The potentiator of the body then is that which, being informed, regulates activity. The matrix of the spirit is difficult to characterize since the nature of spirit is less modal. The energies and movements of the spirit are, by far, the most profound, yet, having more close association with time/space, do not have the characteristics of dynamic motion. Thusly one may see the matrix as the deepest darkness and the potentiator of spirit as the most sudden awakening, illuminating, and generative influence. This is the description of archetypes 1 through 9 before the onset of influence of the co-creator or sub-logo's realization of free will. 79.
Okay, see, so again, if you listen to what Ra just said there, you get that expansion that I was just talking about. Once you get to the non-physical plane, to the etheric plane, or the plane where the density where you are energy being, light being, again, it repeats itself. It's a cyclical nature, and that's what he was talking about there at that point. Going up through the chakras, it does the same thing. So, but again, Ra even stated that once you get into that plane of existence, it's hard to understand compared to here because you're outside of time space. You're not in the place where time is a constant like here. You're in the place where time is now, and all the physics are completely different in that place compared to here. However, it's in the cyclical nature of that. Once you are fully integrated into that, which is in the upper chakras, when you're moving from 6D to 7D into 8D, then that is all non-physical completely, and in the movement that is there is instantaneous. You don't have the time. Time doesn't count because there is no distance between, because the time is only the distance that it takes the physical body to go from one place to another. When you move completely into your light body, you instantaneously by thought move to another place. So there is no time. Everything is just now. You're just there and then you're there. No matter how far, or you're here and then you're there. No matter the distance, you automatically become there instantaneously. So there is no time. Time is only the distance it takes for physicality to happen. So when somebody wants to move from where they are to where you are, they make contact with you, and then they know where you are, and then they just move there. They're just there. Bink, there they are. Do you see? So that becomes very strange if down here I'm trying to explain that to you. You can grasp the concept somewhat, but it doesn't do it justice even with this, because it's on a higher plane, and the entire existence is different there. So, but the chakras still apply. It's just on a different, strange physics level compared to here, that are outside the bounds of all that you know here. And so that becomes very. So it's like a quantum weirdness when you get there. But when you're there, it's just something you learn. Just like here, you learn the matrix here when you are born as a child, as a human on this planet. You learn the matrix and how it works, or how it seemingly works. There, it's the same, but it's still interpretive in a way that has always been that way. And that's part of what you're supposed to learn here, is that reality is interpretive. So the quantum of reality is a constant, but the microcosm of reality is the same, but the macrocosm becomes different. And then the macrocosm is the what is the word that I'm looking for? Is the totality of the thought processes of the entire species given any ecosystem. So what we think, as above, so below, and this is what he's referring to, as below, so above, in fact. So when we make this reality what it is here, same thing happens there. And when you move up, it continues to happen the same way, because all of this is still the same experiment and same scenario that is happening all the way back up to the creator. So nothing ever changes until you get back to the creator. That's the only time that it changes. So the idea is still the same, that we have total carte blanche to create. And so then each ecosystem becomes different than the other ecosystem. So depending on whether, like, the Milky Way galaxy is primarily basically the same as another galaxy from the distance. But when you get into the galaxy, you're going to find that it could be as far away from the Milky Way galaxy as entirely possible, with the types of life forms and the types of stars and planets in the ecosystem that rules there. So they're going to have basic design things that'll be the same, the laws that govern all matrices that are galaxies and then solar systems. But it still has room for changes, to where something that would work here, say like on Earth, where we have a yellow sun, in third dimensional, it could be a purple sun in another place that's doing the exact job, same job as the yellow chakra here, and not the purple chakra. And so the chakras might appear differently in those ecosystems, but they're going to represent and be in the right places to represent. So, for instance, say they traded, so the purple moves to where the yellow is, and the yellow happens to move exactly there. Then you're going to have that chakra that is the crown chakra being that color, that purple or the violet of the upper chakras, and then you're going to have, you see what I'm saying? So that might change, but however, it doesn't seem like it is that drastic. I was using that as an example. I don't believe that it is that drastic. I'm pretty sure that the chakra colors are the chakra colors, but the physics will change a little bit, right? Okay, so hello to anybody who hasn't said hello. If you guys are in the chat, if you don't say hello, I'm not seeing everybody in the chat unless you guys aren't saying anything. So I'm not sure about that. Okay, let's continue here.
9.21 Questioner. The first change made then for this extension of free will was to make the information or make the communication between the matrix and potentiator of the mind relatively unavailable one to the other during the incarnation. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. We would perhaps rather term the condition as relatively more mystery-filled than relatively unavailable. 79.22 Questioner. Well, the idea then was to create some type of veil between matrix and potentiator. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct.
Yeah.
79.23 Questioner. This veil then occurs between what we now call the conscious and the unconscious mind. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. 79.24 Questioner. It was probably the design of the logos by doing this to allow the conscious mind greater freedom under the first distortion by partitioning, you might say, the individualized portions of this from the potentiator or unconscious, which had a greater communication with the total mind. therefore allowing for, you might say, the birth of uneducated, to use a poor term, portions of consciousness. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is roughly correct. 79.25 Questioner, could you roughen it, elucidate a bit on that? Ra, I am Ra. There is intervening material before we may do so. 79.26 Questioner, okay. Now, was then this simple experiment carried out and the product of this experiment observed before greater complexity was attempted? Ra, I am Ra. As we have said, there have been a great number of successive experiments. 79.
Right, so you have to realize that people get the wrong idea about the way things work in the universe, in this ecosystem, is because most people don't realize that it evolves, and it is evolving. I was just talking about this, I think last night, maybe today, just in the last 24 hours, 12, 15 hours, 16 hours or so, talking about this very idea. So people don't realize that they think that, it was created and this is the way it always has been and the way it is going to be forever. That's just not true. The creator of the universe is creating things and recreating things and giving carte blanche to individuals who can come up with new ideas. So if somebody comes up with a new idea and it's a idea that seems to catch on, where people are thinking about a certain thing, and then the creator will actually allow it to be created, right? Because that's the way it works. So when we come up with a new scenario and we start going down that track of a new scenario, and it becomes a reality, then all eyes start turning to that, as a possibility that they may want to do in their matrix. So that's like what's happening right here, breaking away from the norm on this planet. There's a lot going on here that is completely different, specifically to this time going forward. Everything that you see happening around you currently is not normal and hasn't been normal. Okay, so everything that you see currently going on and what you're having, what this place is moving into, and the idea of what the changes that are being made here are novel. It's new. It hasn't been done but one other time in this galaxy. You guys are living through it, and most of you don't even know what's happening. You don't know how rare this event is and how new this event is. Now, I'm not talking about the experiment of free will. A lot of people act like the experiment of free will is new. In the minds of the universe, it's relatively new, but it's been around for a very, very long time, right? However, it does mimic, or we mimic that thing. If you look at this planet, the idea of self-rule is only a few hundred years old. Some people had it in different versions. There's the trial and error, getting back to what Ra's talking about. In different versions, but there's always been a monarchy or an oligarchy or a polyarchy or one of those things. I don't know how much you guys know about your governmental systems, but there's always been a dictator of some kind in charge, a single body, and it wasn't until roughly a couple thousand years ago now, or more, about 5,000 years now on this earth. I would wager going back to 12,000 years, where some freedoms were being installed in governmental systems like the Greek and even the Roman system before the Caesars took charge and became dictators in the Roman Empire, when the governmental body with the what did they call that there, the Senate, had more power until Julius Caesar seized power during a war and then never gave it back. The same in Greece, but not in all provinces, where you had that. And a lot of people are like, oh, Leonidas, they were free. They weren't really as free as you think. The hoplites were free, but the Eloi was not. The Eloi were slaves. And that was almost half of the population, more than half of the population. They were slaves. So they weren't completely free the way people remember it or the way they teach it under Leonidas and the like. However, after that, when they defeated Xerxes and started marching on the rest of the world, when Alexander was the ruler before his death, they were a little more free. And then even more so after that, because the kingdom was split apart by the uncles who that took control of it by those, if they're his uncles, I think they were his uncles when Alexander died. But that was the downfall of the empire from that point on. So there has been since then many different versions, and there still are, of freedom, self-rule on this earth, and they're still evolving, right? So you guys are going to see that evolve again all over the world in the next 30 years. So a lot of people don't realize that. So it is new, as above, so below. So we actually mimic what goes on in the universe, right? So as above, so below, right? Joanne, welcome. Welcome to anybody who's here that hasn't said anything in the chat. If you don't say anything, oh, my brother Jeff Neal just popped in. Hi, that person Jeff Neal is my brother in real life. That's my younger brother in real life. Hi, Jeff. Welcome. I don't even know if he's still here now because that was 6 minutes ago. He may have popped in and then left, but that was my brother. So the idea is still being toyed with, but the originally on this earth, the system, the way it worked for a harvest was traditionally mass death. Okay, so that there's residual echoes of that. So you are still here. Welcome, brother. So there's residual echoes of that in the religions on the world. Christianity talking about that rapture, and the other religions talking about like the Kali Yuga, the time of tribulation, the time of troubles, the Ragnarok in the north with the Viking religion, where they have this destruction. The Egyptians, most of the religions still remember around the world the destructions, the falls of the human race being at those prime meridians in time, 77,000 years ago, 12,000 years ago, and the like. Before that, going back further, 128,000 years ago, there's a 77,000 year cycle, large cycle, the big round in the south, in the Central and South America with the Incans and the Mayans, as opposed to the little round, but the little round also being a 3,000 year reset. So you have still residuals of the old way of things, where when a harvest came, there would be a mass destruction of areas, and that changed about 12,000 years ago, and things started moving in a different way. And now the things are moving that way currently to a place where a new expansion, and this is what Ra's kind of referring to, but not fully here in this part of the Law of One, saying that through trial and error, that the creator of the universe created this type of scenario, and that's playing out everywhere, in not every single place in every corner of the universe, but in any place that's new or any place that wants to adopt it because it has a potential. And so people have that to draw on when they're creating their matrix, so the logi, the logos, sub-logos, and sub-logos. Reese, welcome. Penny, welcome. Brooke, welcome. Anybody that I didn't say, I apologize. I didn't happen to look up and see that you were here. So literally, there's a new scenario that is now playing out that some people around the world are aware of. Instead of a mass destruction, which they've been trying to prophesize on this earth for a very long time, that World War III and the destruction of the human race was imminent any moment, because all the signs were there of Ragnarok and Kali Yuga in the end times and all of that. But that's not, those scenarios aren't going to happen. That cyclical nature of reality is not what's about to happen here. So you're not going to have Jesus showing up in a bus to pick everybody up. Jesus is going to come driving up, and St. Peter's going to be standing next to him, and the doors are going to open. He's going to have names, and only the names get to come on the bus, and everybody else is going to be left behind. 50 years ago, that's what everybody was pushing still. And if you notice that even the churches kind of stop pushing that ideology. Why? Because they sense that there is a shift in what's going on, and what's happening here now is going to be that part of the Bible that has been talked about, where you hear in the Bible where God says, and I will create the new earth, the new heaven and the new earth. That doesn't mean destruction anymore to create that. It means simultaneous existence and transformation of the earth into the new earth, the heavens into the new heaven. So that's that. So that was even foretold in the Christian Bible, the Hebrew Bible, and the Muslim Bible, that God was changing the way things were done. No more the destruction, no more the destroyer of worlds coming to annihilate an entire species with a fire or a flood or something else, but a new creation, a recreation. So this is what's happening here, and most people are unaware of that. Most of you out there in the world don't know that, and it's even foretold, like I said, in the Bibles. So those of us who are reading that see that, and some of the people in the churches don't understand what that means, and they still think it means a destruction where of the planet where most people are going to die. But that's not the intention with what's happening on Earth, and that is why you have people that are really kind of starting to talk about that in the last 15 or 20 years now, really in the last 10. And really, really in the last 5 years, you hear people start talking about that. I mean, Corey Good was talking about it, not understanding it fully himself back 10 years ago when they were talking about doing the Above Majestic documentary, which came out in 2017 or 2018, depending on which timeline you were in when it first hit. Because I was in a timeline where it came out in 2017. I think it now says it didn't come out until October of 2018, which that means that the timeline shifted from that memory. There's a Mandela effect there. Okay, so let's continue with what Raw is saying here, right? Brooke said, she said, hello, Soul Family just popped in for a second. Yeah, I think she's at work, so she's just popping in. Hi, she said hi to me. Hi, Leo. Hi, Brooke. Penny, I didn't see you. I think I said hi to Penny. So I apologize if I missed you because you didn't say anything in the chat. So hello to everybody. So let's let Raw continue with talking about that. And so through trial and error, the creator of the universe, and a lot of you don't know that error, oddly enough, we use that word. If you read the Book of Truth, error was a person, was a soul, was a female, as a matter of fact, named Error. You should read the Scroll of Truth. That was one of the scrolls that was found, the Book of Truth, one of the scrolls that was found during at the Dead Sea, when we found the Dead Sea Scrolls. I can't say we because I wasn't one of the people who found it, but what that was found, we as in the human race found in the Dead Sea area when we found the scrolls, and that's one of the many. So if you listen to or read the Book of Truth, you'll see that in there it talks about the creation of the human condition being done by Error, and Error was a she, and that it was allowed to happen by the Creator. That potentiation, my brother and I, who's in the audience right now, we're just talking about free will and some things that people say God didn't create, but other people did, and then but even if God doesn't create it, and this is the thinking in all of the churches and all of the religions around the world, it was done because God created someone and gave them the ability to create that. Therefore, God may not have actually come up with the idea and implemented it. It might have been someone else, but it was someone that he gave the idea to be able to do that. Do you see? So by proxy, the creator is creating and recreating, because the creator is allowing every individual to do that. And since we are, in fact, all just fractured pieces of the creator of the universe, so on the level, if you don't believe in the creator of the universe, you can go, well, that was created by humans, because you don't want to believe that there is anything above you or more powerful than you. But the truth is, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, the sky is blue on this planet. Okay, so you can call it whatever you want, but it's still blue because that's the color that it is. Unless, of course, it's an overcast day or whatever, something changes that, or we have a sunspots and during the middle of the day and it changes the color to green or yellow or red, because the spectrum that comes in and the energy, like the aurora borealis. So, but otherwise, the potentiator is the creator. So the potentiation is us. So we become a recreator or a co-creator, and then we can take the potentiation and then make it what we want here. And then that's the as below, so above. What you reap on, or what you sow on the earth, I shall too sow in heaven. What you reap on the earth, I shall too reap in heaven. And that's where that comes from. So it's, you have the free will. You have the freedom to create and recreate brand new scenarios. And I will allow that to happen because I want to see those scenarios. That is basically what God was saying by giving us that free will. Chandra, welcome. All right, so let's continue here. So again, the potentiation, the potentiator is allowing us to have that potential to then create anything that we want. So let's get back with Ra talking about that.
27 Questioner, I was just wondering, since this seems to be the crux of the experiment, this seems to be the large breaking point between no extension of the first distortion and the extension of the first distortion, what the result of this original experiment was with respect to that which was created from it. What was the result of that? Ra, I am Ra. This is previously covered material. The result of these experiments has been a more vivid, varied, and intense experience of creator by creator. 79.28 Questioner, well, I was aware of that. I probably didn't state the question correctly. It's a very difficult question to state. I don't know if it's worth attempting to continue with, but what I meant was, when this very first experiment with the veiling process occurred, did it result in service to self-polarization with the first experiment?
Right before we let that finish, I want to address what Chandra said, right? Me too. You know that, right? I talked about that when I was 11. Right. So she said, I've recently come to the realization, Leo, that I've been in the GATE program. Recently remember that I was tested. Right. So we'll have to talk about that, you and I, one of these days. Remind me, and you and I will have a conversation about that. I would love to hear that story behind that, and that what you do remember from all of that. Yeah, I would love to go down that path. So let's set up a time and you and I talk and find out what maybe we can swap stories, right? Yeah, you remembered. She said, "Yeah, I remember you saying that." Yeah, so you remember that. So I would love to hear the scenario and what you remember of the testing and the tests that you took there when you did that, and how long ago that was. We'll have to talk. Let's do that. All right, let's continue with Ra here.
Ra, I am Ra. The early, if we may use this term, Logoi produced service to self and service to others mind/body/spirit complexes immediately. The hard stability of these entities was not so immediate, and thus refinements of the archetypes began apace. 79.29 Questioner, now we are getting to what I was trying to determine. Then at this point, were there still only 9 archetypes and the veil had just been drawn between the matrix and potentiator? Ra, I am Ra. There were 9 archetypes and many shadows. 79.30 Questioner, by shadows do you mean what I might refer to as the birthing of small archetypical biases? Ra, I am Ra. Rather, we would describe these shadows as the inchoate thoughts of helpful structures not yet fully conceived. 79.31 Questioner, then at this point, would the choice exist at this point, the creation of the first service to self-polarity? Is there a choice at that point, or is it a non-choice? Ra, I am Ra.
Right. So again, reinstilling the idea. Now we're going back to when things shifted with the free will, and things shifting to where people were given the choice of being evil. Okay. So this is what he's asking about. So when that happened, were people forced to, is basically what he's saying here. Were they forced to do it or not? And it was still free will. But let's listen to Ra's explanation.
Implicit in the veiling or separation of 2 archetypes is the concept of choice. The refinements to this concept took many experiences. 79.32 Questioner. See,
so it didn't just happen overnight. Do you understand that? So everything that comes into being, when people do that, they play with it. So literally, when I say they, it's we, unless it's they in a different place in time where those of us around the earth may or may not have been involved in it. So when the first scenario of the veiling happened, in the first scenario of those archetypes of in service to self and in service to others, before that you just were in service. Mostly everybody was in service to others, and there was no in service to self, but there was still, disdain or non-service but not in service to self. So it wasn't good and evil, and the veiling wasn't there. So once they started playing with that, then it was refining that until the scenario seemed to work best, which ecosystem seemed to work, and then that was implemented. Okay, so we're toying with one of those ideas now here. Before it was the rapture, before it was that was sort of the, if you look at it, that was sort of the same, because originally it was destruction. Okay, so when they created the scenario, it was mass death. So if an entire species or population of a city state was ready to say move on, then something would happen and then they would disappear off the face of the earth. Usually it was a destruction, and then things had changed. On this planet alone, we have different scenarios that have played out that people are unaware of, that they're just starting to become aware of. In South America, there was a group of people down there, 2 million people, that disappeared off the face of the earth with no destruction. They all just disappeared. So that was more in line with the rapture. There was nobody left behind, okay? There was no one left behind. So we now know that those people in Central and South America that disappeared off this earth 12,000 years ago, they were teaching what we're starting to teach worldwide now. This is an illusion, and that you're supposed to be learning spirituality and ascending, either making a choice to be in service to others, evil, and a choice of being in service to self, good, and then teaching that as a whole to the population. So it wasn't like they people were just learning a bunch of different religions. They were teaching that to their children and teaching them that this is the way that is going on. So now we're still fractured to a great deal, where you have thousands of different spiritual practices here, but what's happening is people are incorporating them. They're getting smaller and smaller as people are getting rid of semantical ideology that humans put in, and they're pulling together all of these things. So what was once fractured, when God created that and fractured everybody, gave them language, had them speaking in tongue, and had the religions fractured, those are now starting to coalesce and come back together, and people are starting to pull in the ideologies that are the different way, and different ways of the way, pulling those together and realizing this totality and getting rid of all the semantical crap that was added by humans, that like Moses gave, or God gave Moses 10 commandments, and now the Jews took those 10 laws and turned them into over 6,000. And then when Jesus got here, he was like, that's wrong. I don't know what you guys are doing, but it's wrong. And that's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to have all those laws. God didn't give you all those laws. Man gave you those laws. So that ideology then was carried on by Muhammad after that, and in the East with other thought. And then they tried to stifle all that at the different councils, specifically the last two, Nicaea 1 and 2, where they tried to stifle all of that thinking and remove it and reshape the Bible the way they wanted. And now that's been undone because of the Dead Sea Scrolls and the influx of all of the other spiritual practices around the earth. That whole entire scenario that has happened here in the last 12,000 years alone, but in the last 77,000 years, is reordering that chaos into a new way, and that is actually allowed. But before that, it was set in the way, even with free will of good and evil, it still was mass destruction. And since then, it has changed. And the last mass destruction was the flood, and since then, we don't have one. And so now we're trying to create a scenario here to where it's not going to be that way. We don't have to have all that happen. And the entire species is now being allowed to upgrade at the same time, so that the people who aren't ready, they'll just naturally live their life out. And when they die from whatever natural event that happens to them, they'll recycle to another location, a different planet in a different solar system that is still 3D if they're not ready to go to 4D. And everybody else is just going to shift, the entire plane is going to shift into 4D. And that's a brand new scenario that hasn't been done yet. And that's what's happening here. So let's let Ra continue talking about the archetypes, and now he's talking about the archetype of the free will being created with the scenario of evil people and good people, and literally just said it was through trial and error that we got to that scenario, which we're used to here because we've been living it for a long time.
I'm sorry that I have much difficulty in asking these questions, but we're on material that I find somewhat difficult. I find it interesting that the very first experiment of veiling matrix from the potentiator and vice versa created service to self-polarity. This seems to be a very important philosophical point in the development of the creation and possibly the beginning of a system of what we would call magic not envisioned previously. Let me ask this question. Prior to the extension of first distortion, was the magical potential of the higher densities as great as it is now when the greatest potential was achieved in consciousness for each density? This is difficult to ask. What I am saying is at the end of fourth density, prior to the extension of free will, was the magical potential, what we call magic, as great, or the ability, or the effect as great as it is now at the end of fourth density? Ra, I am Ra. As you understand, if we may use this misnomer, magic, the magical potential in third and fourth density was then far greater than after the change. However, there was far less desire or will to use this potential. 79.33 Questioner. Now, let me be sure I understand you. Prior to the change and the extension of free will, let's take specifically the end of fourth density, magical potential for the condition when there was only service to others polarization, magical ability, or potential was much greater at the end of fourth density than at the end of fourth density immediately after the split of polarization and the extension of free will. Is that correct? Ra, I am Ra. Magical ability is the ability to consciously use the so-called unconscious. Therefore, there was maximal ability prior to the innovation of sub-logos free will. 79.34 Questioner.
Welcome, Anna. Welcome. All right, let's continue here.
Okay. At the present time we are experiencing the effects of a more complex or greater number of archetypes, and I have guessed that the ones we are experiencing now for the mind work as follows. We have the magician and high priestess, which correspond to the matrix, and potentiator, which have the veil drawn between them, which is the primary creator of the extension of the first distortion.
Okay, so now those of you who are who use tarot cards, this is what Reese and I have been talking about. Reese has one of the oldest decks he found again that he and I were looking for back in 2018, somewhere around there, maybe even 2019 by the time we figured it out. I still haven't gotten one. Reese had one. It disappeared, and he just found another one and bought one. He just showed it to us like 2 weeks ago on the Wednesday conversation that he showed us that deck. Now, that's important because here we have Dawn talking about the tarot deck and these same archetypes that I've been talking about, that we have been talking about here. When the tarot cards were created, the archetypes, the major arcana and the minor arcana, have more to do than people realize with the universe itself and all of the chakras. And so now this is where Dawn is asking one of those questions. He just talked about the archetype of the king and queen and how that has to do with the veiling. So let's continue that. So think about now in from the context, if you know about tarot cards, you want to have that in the forefront of your mind, and what you know about the different suits in the deck and the different numbers in the deck and the different card suits and what those represent and what you think they represent, and then realize what Ra's talking about here on a the microcosm to the macrocosm when it comes to physical and spiritual, the energy, frequency, vibration, and going forward from there. So pay attention and listen to what Ra is saying, because he's talking in two different realms, or three really, but mostly at this point he's asking the question of the conscious, subconscious, and then you have the superconscious. So you have the energy, the frequency, and the vibration of the totality that makes up your immortal soul, okay, and the universe itself. So listen to what the description here in the question here that Dawn's asking Ra, and the answer to that.
Is that correct? Ra, I am Ra. We are unable to answer this query without intervening material. 79.35 Questioner. Okay. Sorry about that. The next archetype, the Empress, is the catalyst of the mind, that which acts upon the conscious mind to change it. The fourth being the Emperor, which is the experience of the mind. which is that material stored in the unconscious which creates its continuing bias. Am I correct with those statements? Ra, I am Ra. Though far too rigid in your statements, you perceive correct relationships. There is a great deal of dynamic interrelationship in these first four archetypes. 79.36 Questioner, would the Hierophant then be somewhat of a governor or sorter of these effects so as to create the proper assimilation by the unconscious of that which comes through the conscious? Ra, I am Ra. Although thoughtful, the supposition is incorrect in its heart. 79.37 Questioner, what would be the Hierophant?
Okay, hold on before you answer that. Deborah, welcome. I don't know if you were here a couple minutes ago. Jeff was in the audience a couple minutes ago. I don't know if he still is. There's my sister in real life. Our brother was here and said hello just a few minutes ago. All right, let's continue here.
Ra, I am Ra. The Hierophant is the significator of the body * complex, its very nature. We may note that the characteristics of which you speak do have bearing upon the significator of the mind complex but are not the heart. The heart of the mind complex is that dynamic entity which absorbs, seeks, and attempts to learn. Ra corrected this error in session number 80. The Hierophant is the significator of the mind complex. 79.38 Questioner, then is the Hierophant the link, you might say, between the mind and the body? Ra, I am Ra. There is a strong relationship between the significators of the mind, the body, and the spirit. Your statement is too broad. 79.39 Questioner, let me skip over the Hierophant for a minute because I'm really not understanding that at all and just ask you if the lovers represent the merging of the conscious and the unconscious or a communication between conscious and unconscious. Ra, I am Ra. Again, without being at all unperceptive, you miss the heart of this particular archetype which may be more properly called the transformation of the mind. 79.40 Questioner.
Right, so he's, let's see if he gets into that. That's a different. See, that again is he's looking at it in a specific for the marrying of the mind, so to speak, but it's the marrying of the energies. So it's the Kundalini and the Kunda buffer, the masculine and feminine energies of yourself and of the higher self. So it is, in a sense, the marrying of your physical self with your higher self or your subconscious self. Energy, frequency, vibration. Once again. But it is on many levels, and the linear mind of Dawn has him thinking now just the lovers. That's intertwined. That's a transformation. That's the Kundalini. That's the knotwork of the Vikings and the Celts. Their concept of that, the yin and yang, the Vesica Pisces of the Asians, the yin and yang, where you have the light and dark, the masculine and feminine energies, and the overlapping of those two in that Vesica Pisces, which is the heart chakra. So that applies on all planes of existence. So that applies in the physical. It applies between man and woman, the lovers. It applies between your conscious self, your superconscious self, or your subconscious self, and your superconscious self. That's energy, frequency, vibration, physicality, the thought, heart, creative ability, and then the higher plane of existence, the energy, frequency, vibration, once again, the light wave, the soul body. So it's not just answerable in one term. Let's see what Ra says with that, because it is all three of those, and it has the potential for all three of those for marrying or joining or transforming something from separateness into wholeness. So let's see what Ra specifically was able to tell Dawn 45 years ago.
Transformation of the mind into what? Ra, I am Ra. As you observe archetype 6, you may see the student of the mysteries being transformed by the need to choose betwixt the light and the dark in mind. 79.41 Questioner, would the conqueror or chariot then represent the culmination of the action of the first 6 archetypes into a conquering of the mental processes, even possibly removing the veil? Ra, I am Ra. This is most perceptive. The archetype 7 is one difficult to enunciate. We may call it the path, the way, or the great way of the mind. Its foundation is a reflection and substantial summary of archetypes 1 through 6.
See, again, we're talking about the chakras, right? So the archetype of the crown chakra, the archetype of the Christ consciousness, the spiritual consciousness, or what he's referring to as the archetype of the mind, being the seventh chakra, being that archetype, is also represented, by the way, in the tarot cards. And that's why they're using the tarot cards as reference points to deal with these traits at this point. And because Don doesn't know them as chakras, but he's learning that as he goes. So he's using archetypical, just because I think his background was more from Archimedes and the like from the Roman and Greek, as opposed to the Eastern thought processes or even the Egyptian. So his background in knowledge goes to Roman Greek ideology and their reasoning. So they didn't know chakra. The best that Don would know would be the Greek spindle wheel for those energy points. So the archetype would be more conducive with his mind being a nuclear physicist and a physicist in general, with a minor in astrology. He would be more prone to that kind of reference in asking questions to Ra, whereas I have a more philosophical background, even though I wanted to be a physicist. I was in college for that, but I have more of a religious background that is more rounded and more expansive than Dawn's, because he was more of a Christian, I think, in his religion. Shelley, welcome. All right, so let's continue with so he's talking about the seventh archetype, the seventh chakra, the crown chakra.
One may also see the way of the mind as showing the kingdom or fruits of appropriate travel through the mind, in that the mind continues to move as majestically through the material it conceives of as a chariot drawn by royal lions or steeds. At this time we would suggest one more full query, for this instrument is experiencing some distortions towards pain. 79.42 Questioner: then I will just ask for the one of the archetypes which I am least understanding at this point, if I can use that word at all. I am still very much in the dark, so to speak, with respect to the Hierophant and precisely what it is. Could you give me some other indication of what that is, please? Ra, I am Ra. You have been most interested in the significator, which must needs become complex. The Hierophant is the original archetype of mind, which has been made complex through the subtle movements of the conscious and unconscious. The complexities of mind were evolved rather than the simple melding of experience from potentiator to matrix. The mind itself became an actor possessed of free will and, more especially, will. As the significator of the mind, the Hierophant has the will to know, but what shall it do with its knowledge, and for what reasons does it seek? The potentials of a complex significator are manifold. Are there any brief queries at this working? 79.43 Questioner: only is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact? Ra, I am Ra. All is well. For some small portion of your future the instrument would be well advised to wear upon the hands those aids to comfort which it has neglected to use. There has been some trauma to both hands and arms, and, therefore, we have had to somewhat abbreviate this working. 79.44 Questioner: thank you. Ra, I am Ra. You are conscientious, my friends. We leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one glorious infinite Creator. Adonai.
Okay, let me stop sharing this one, and we'll go to the next session here. Let me pull that up, and I will open this up, and I'll share this one. Let me get it up here and make sure it's the right one.
February 27th,
yes, it is.
1982.
Okay, let me share this with you guys here. We come back over here in studio and share screen. And then let me pull myself back up into full screen, and then we'll go ahead and do a sound check, and I'll go ahead on to the next session. So we're on session 80 now, I believe. So let's go ahead, and I'll go ahead and start this, and we'll get right into this. And we'll get into, and like I said, we'll do a sound check and let it play.
February 27th, 1982. 80.0 Ra, I am Ra. We greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Before we initiate this working, we would wish to correct an error which we have found in previous material.
And that was the reference that was in the last session where it said that Ra corrected this in the next session, in session 80. So you're going to hear that correction here from what he was talking about earlier. So go ahead and let's let that play out.
That archetype, 5, which you have called the Hierophant, is the significator of the mind complex. This instrument is prey to sudden flares towards the distortion known as pain. We are aware of your conscientious attempts to aid the instrument but know of no other modality available to the support group other than the provision of water therapy upon the erect spinal portion of the physical body complex.
Well, now there's somebody I haven't seen for a while. Finn, welcome, brother. I haven't seen you in the audience for a long time. How you doing? Welcome from over there. You still in Ireland? I think you are. That's where you were. I don't know if you're still over there. Welcome, Finn. So there's Finn Kavanaugh. Hasn't been in here for a minute, right? Joanne, you said you could hear it. Thank you for letting me know that we could hear it. Okay. All right, let's continue, right?
Which we have previously mentioned. This instrument's distortions of body do not ever rule out, shall we say, such flares during these periods of increased distortion of the body complex. Our contact may become momentarily garbled. Therefore, we request that any information which seems garbled be questioned, as we wish this contact to remain as undistorted as the limitations of language, mentality, and sensibility allow. We communicate now. 80.1 Questioner, thank you. Could you please give me the condition of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. This instrument is experiencing mild fluctuations of the physical energy complex which are causing sudden changes from physical energy deficit to some slight physical energy. This is due to many, what you may call, prayers and affirmations offered to and by the instrument, offset by continual greetings whenever it is feasible by the fifth density entity of whom you are aware. In other respects, the instrument is in the previously stated condition. 80.2 Questioner, I had to leave the room for a forgotten item after we performed the banishing ritual. Did this have a deleterious effect on the ritual or the working?
So that entity in the fifth density that he was talking about is the assassin, who is periodically trying to murder Carla to stop this sort of thing from happening, right? So, yeah, so that's crazy. So that's what they're talking about. And then Dawn had to leave the room and go get something. Now they're probably going to have him rewalk stuff, what's going on. So Finn said, I've been in and out of the hospital over the year, still in Ireland. That's why I thought you were still over there. I hope you're doing well, my friend. I am doing well. I hope you're doing well. You've been in and out of the hospital in the last year, so I hope you're doing well. I hope yeah, stop that. You're not authorized to be in and out of the hospital, brother. Right? So, yeah, I figured you were still in Ireland. So I'm glad that you're still in Ireland. I'm glad well, maybe not. I mean, the politics over there is just as crazy as some of the other places, right? So you're probably having it kind of tough. And what Peter's telling me, that the politics over there is still a little annoying. You guys got to vote those people out of office and get some people in office that are going to take care of your people a little bit better, right? We all had to do that. We were in the same boat until we just elected Trump, and we'll see if things are going to work out for us with Trump in office, or we'll throw him out and bring in somebody else. All right, let's continue. So the entity in the fifth density is an assassin that was trying to kill Carla, but now we're going to move to the question of, Dawn said, I had to leave the room because I forgot something and came back. Is that going to be, deleterious to, or, detrimental to, or a problem because I did that? Well, yes, if I were teaching him and he was casting a bubble to work in, unless you know where the door is and you have carved a door for yourself, if you move through that bubble, if you're not powerful enough to knock the bubble down, you're going to have to recreate it. But let's see what Ra says with the energy that's up, because Ra will, I'm sure, test and see if that is still there and determine whether or not they need to rewalk it.
Ra, I am Ra. Were it the only working, the lapse would have been critical. There is enough residual energy of a protective nature in this place of working that this lapse, though quite unrecommended, does not represent a threat to the protection which the ritual of which you spoke offers. 80 point.
Right, so literally Ra tested, and because of they're in a room that they constantly walk and they constantly clear, and they have that workspace set up with an overall protection, and then every time they do that, which is daily, they're cleaning the rooms and they're literally going around and clearing everything out, probably using sage and things like that, and then doing a ritual to get everything in order, that there's residual enough to, but normally, like Ross said, normally that would be bad, right? But in this sense, because it is dedicated, that room is dedicated to the ritual of a communication with Ra, that it's okay, that they didn't knock down too much of it, right? So Finn said the corruption in Ireland is per usual. Yeah, normal governmental crap, right? Just happy that I'm healthy and back on my feet, right? Yeah. Happy to see you still on here. Yeah, I am. I'm still teaching, brother. I'm going through the Law of One for the second time. And we are going to start evolving away from that once I finish the Law of One this time. But I am going to still be on air, and I'm still going to be teaching spirituality, but I won't be using the Law of One to do so as I'm doing it in this particular guise of doing this. So once we finish, we're on session 80 now. Once we get through 106, well, then there'll be a different method of delivery. I may just continue channeling and talking about things and coming up with topics to do so instead of using the Law of One to come up with topics. But we'll see how it goes, depending on what's going on. But I'm glad that you're on your feet. I'm glad that you're up and ready. And yeah, corruption is corruption, right? No matter what country you're in, you guys just got to figure out what you can put up with, right? What you can deal with. All right, let's continue.
3 questioner. Has our 5th density visitor been less able to affect the instrument during our more recent workings? Ra, I am Ra. We shall answer in 2 parts. Firstly, during the workings themselves the entity has been baited to a great extent. Secondly, in the general experiential circumstance of your space/time experience, this 5th density entity is able to greet this entity with the same effectiveness upon the physical body complex as always since the inception of its contact with your group. This is due to the several physical complex distortions of the instrument. However, the instrument has become more mentally and spiritually able to greet this entity with love, thereby reducing the element of fear, which is an element the entity counts as a great weapon in the attempt to cause cessation, in any degree, of the RA contact. 80.4 questioner. What is the reason for the fact that the entity...
Right, so you need to understand that, and then we'll go on into 80.4. This is what we try to teach everybody. Immediately, you need to realize that fear is their biggest weapon. Right, so the first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. The first step in defeating evil is to never be afraid of it. Shed light on it. Love, send love. That's what he's literally saying, that Carla was in no longer in fear and being able to greet them with the love and the light of the infinite creator. That's your biggest weapon. Everyone thinks they have to fight against evil, and that means that you're getting into a physical conflict. That's their wheelhouse. That's what they want, physicality. They want a physical confrontation. Mahatma Gandhi taught an entire nation that, and the nation of India defeated the English Empire by non-compliance, without firing a shot. The English packed up and went home because the Indians continued to refuse to do anything. And when they beat them, that empowered more people to do nothing instead of trying to overthrow them, because they wanted a conflict where they could start murdering everyone. And it didn't happen, and they couldn't justify it. And they knew that if they just started murdering people, everyone would turn against them. And so they literally couldn't quell it, because you can't fight an idea with an idea if your idea is the bad idea. Do you see? And then you have to convince people that, wait, no, we're actually having the good idea and we're your friends. That's not going to work when they realize you're the enemy. Okay. All right. So most revolutions need to not be fought in the physical. That's a last resort when you have no recourse and everybody is dying. Then you may do that. Otherwise, if you don't have to, you don't need to. If you don't need to, you don't have to. All right, let's continue.
He is able to act through physical distortions that are already present, as opposed to being unable to act on an entity who's had no physical distortions at all. Ra, I am Ra. The key to this query is the term distortion. Any distortion, be it physical, mental, or spiritual in complex nature, may be accentuated by the suggestion of one able to work magically, that is, to cause changes in consciousness. This entity has many physical distortions. Each in the group has various mental distortions. Their nature varies.
Wait, let me stop there and point out that magical means to cause changes in the physical. That means mental. That means manifestation. Right? So people are always afraid of magic. Magic is your thought processes with your intention changing events or something in the physical. So it's not as crazy as they want you to believe. They want you to believe that magic has something to do with the devil, demons. So thinking something and manifesting something, which means magic, magical properties, magi, that's where the word comes from, learned one, illuminated one. They're trying to discourage you from taking a thought in your mind and making it happen in the physical. That's what they're doing. But they want you to think of words and write them down. They want you to think of how to fix their car and fix their car. So they want you to do it on every level that serves them, but not on any level that serves the all or serves the one, unless it's them. So they pick and choose what they want you to think about and manifest and do in the physical and make changes in the physical. If you're picking up their garbage as a garbage man, they want you to continue thinking about picking up garbage and manifesting that and picking garbage up and taking it away. If it serves them and you're a servant to them, they want you to be smart enough to think things and do that, paint their fence, right? Build their house, pay them money, work for them in their factory. But if it has something to do with your waking up or your knowledge, all of a sudden it's from the devil and it's demons. Okay, let's continue.
The less balanced the distortion by self-knowledge, the more adeptly the entity may accentuate such a distortion in order to mitigate against the smooth functioning and harmony of the group. 80.5 Questioner, as RA well knows, the information that we accumulate here will be illuminating to but a very minor percentage of those who populate this planet presently, simply because there are very, very few people who can understand it. However, it seems that our fifth density visitor is, shall we say, dead set against this communication. Can you tell me why this is so important to him, since it is of such a limited effect, I would guess, upon the harvest of this planet? Since it seems to me that those who will understand this information will quite possibly already be within the limits of Hive stability. Ra, I am Ra. Purity does not end with the harvest of third density. The fidelity of RA towards the attempt to remove distortions is total. This constitutes an acceptance of responsibility for service to others which is of relative purity. The instrument through which we speak and its support group have a similar fidelity and, disregarding any inconvenience to self, desire to serve others. Due to the nature of the group, the queries made to us by the group have led rapidly into somewhat abstruse regions of commentary. This content does not mitigate against the underlying purity of the contact. Such purity is as a light. Such an intensity of light attracts attention. 80.6 Questioner, what would our fifth density visitor hope to gain for himself if he were to be successful in terminating this contact? Ra, I am Ra. As we have previously stated, the entity hopes to gain a portion of that light, that is, the mind/body/spirit complex of the instrument. Barring this, the entity intends to put out the light. 80.7 Questioner.
Okay, so they gain power from individuals that they brutalize or murder or torture. So most people don't understand more specifically that evil people gain in stature and gain in power when they do things to people, when they brutalize them, rape them, pillage them, murder them, dominate them, talk down to them, mentally torture them. Do you see? They gain like a vampire, like an energy vampire. They gain, that is vampirism at its base. They gain some of your light. They gain that power and turn that. We've proven this. I've talked about this when I was telling people 35 years ago about vampires. It's not what you think when people are like, oh, they want your blood because they want to drink your blood. Fools do that now and they drink other people's blood, but they try to make sure that it's type O negative blood because otherwise they could poison themselves. Because that they believe that they were drinking your blood because when they were talking about your essence back in the way back, the reference that people were saying was that your blood this and your bloodline that. It's actually your life force. And they would say it's in your blood because back then that's where they misunderstood. They started doing that in the Central and South America where they started bloodletting. They started sacrificing people and bleeding them out and believing that if they did that, the gods would return or they would gain favor from the gods. So they would murder somebody because they wanted rain to happen if there wasn't any rain. So that was children that didn't understand the concept. The translation, lost in translation, the translation of things into words had them not understanding and realizing what they were talking about, right? But energy is where, and that's where Peter's talking about that, right? Vampires take your energy, right? That is the where it came from. Is the vampirism was actually energy. It was your aura. It was your soul energy, not your physical body, not the physical blood that runs in your DNA, that runs in your body, but the energy, your essence. And people are still doing it. So back even 35 years ago, when I was trying to teach that, people would look at me and go, "Is that a thing?" And I'm like, "It most definitely is a thing. You guys need to realize that." I talked about that where my friend's shop back then, he had a shop where he sold all, paraphernalia and all the stuff that has to do with what they called new age stuff. And he was, they had a class. I don't know if it was a drum circle or something, a meditation class. I don't recall exactly what it was that they were doing at that particular night, but two people came in and raided the place of everybody's energy, and everybody that was there that night felt ill. Their body hurt and ached, and they had no energy, and they all ended up leaving after those people left, and they went home, and they didn't feel good for a few days. And as soon as I found out about it, I went down there, and my ex-wife was one of the people, and I went down and told Ron, the owner of the shop, what was going on, and he looked at me and said, "That's a thing?" I'm like, "Yes, it is. You need to call every person that was in here and tell them that they need rose petals in the bath or rose oil in their bath, because the scent of rose and the energy of rose will help you to replenish your aura." So they need to do it now. You can't just spray it on you. You need to immerse yourself in water. So literally, if they have some roses, get a dozen roses and pull all the flowers off and pull the petals off and put them in the water, warm water, and climb in it and soak in it. Or use rose oil, but you have to make sure it's concentrated and it's from roses. That's why they use rosary beads. They were originally from rose petals. I used to have one that was made in Jerusalem that was made from rose leaves, where they literally smashed them together and made the rosary bead, each bead, and including the cross. It was literally smelled like rose. You could smell it. It wasn't because they sprayed it. And actually, you could see that it was made of rose. That's why they were called the rosary bead, because those beads and the prayers for that would protect your aura. And that's why people started wearing those and using those as prayer beads, because they were made of rose petals. So the vampires were literally taking your essence, your life force essence, your energy, your aura, and they want to transmute that into themselves. And I used to show people images that we had from testing, where we were able to take pictures of people's auras. You can look this up online. They're all out there online, where you take pictures of the human body. I even put pictures of it. I made a reel about 3 years ago. It's on, if you go and find my reels that are old enough, Facebook, definitely on Instagram and YouTube. I think both of those go back far enough that if you go and look at those, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, you should be able to go back on my reel, short, whatever it's called on the platform, and go back almost to the beginning and then come forward. You'll see that I have pictures of real auras, and then there's different ones that show you what a person who is possessed has, what their aura looks like. And we show that an aura, say if it's blue, we show a picture of that, and then we show a picture of that aura when an energy vampire took their aura from them, and the aura goes from being large from off of the body to almost non-existent, and it's almost completely gone. And then the aura of the person who took their aura, now they've integrated that energy into their aura, and their aura gets bigger and is red because they're in self-serving and they're evil, and they're pulling the aura from you. It's a real thing that science has proven is actually real with empirical evidence, even though we knew about it before we had empirical evidence. But once we had the technology 35 years ago to empirically prove that, they still keep it away from society because they don't want you to know about it, because most evil people do that to you. And some of you know those people, where every time you go and you're around a certain person in your life, you're like, oh my God, every time I talk to them, I leave and I have no energy and I'm tired and I'm achy, because they're a vampire, whether they know it or not. And they're taking your energy from you. They're siphoning off your energy, your life force energy, and you have to re-put it on to yourself. You need to actually figure that out, right? So Penny said in Florida, water is the same type of thing. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Did I miss that, or was it something that Peter was talking about? And then Paulie said Hands of Light by Barbara Ann Brennan. So is that, Paulie, is that a book that talks about it? Probably, right? I don't know. So yeah, Paulie, let me know if that's what that is. So maybe it is, right? Because people have written books about that since. So we used to teach this to people years and years and years ago when it wasn't, people didn't understand it as much as they do today. People like me and myself were trying to give this information to as many people as we could so that they could learn from it and then figure it out. And people started writing books about it. I never wrote a book about it. I probably should. I'd probably be rich if I would have wrote down everything that I know. Yes. Okay. So Paulie said, yeah, it's a brilliant book. So there you go, guys. Here's a book. Let me put it up. Paulie, what Paulie said, and I'll read it to you again. Hands of Light by Barbara Ann Brennan, Brennan. Hands of Light by Barbara Brennan, if you're listening on the MP3 broadcast, is a book about energy vampires. So you guys should take a look at that. So Cassie said, so what can people do? There's a good question. What can people do if they've had an energy vampire? If they had an energy vampire, how do they build back their, I guess you're talking about aura. Specifically, the best way is scent therapy. So like I said, rose petals. You can also use sage on yourself, first of all, to really clear yourself out. But essential oils that are so this is where you in history hear of in the Hebrews with frankincense and myrrh, those two smells specifically. Patchouli, this is why you see a lot of people that are Middle Eastern with that smell that you guys don't like. That wards off evil, but it also helps your aura. White sage. But to rebuild an aura really well, you want to use essential oils like those oils. Burn those incense in the room that you're in, but put rose petals in the bathtub in hot water, no soap, just fill it up so that you're going to sit in it, and then maybe burn candles that even have rose scent, or put some scent in the candle, because you can do that when you're making the candle. You can add it to the wax and make your own candle with the scent of rose in it. So, and then you can also find out what other essential oils, because there are other essential oils that will help you do that. But rose is the best traditionally, that will protect, that'll build back your aura, that'll make all of that go away. And if you soak in it, even immerse your head, get yourself to where you're floating in the water, even submerge, but float in the water for a while in that bathtub in rose oil or rose petals. So go and get a dozen roses and pull off all those petals and put them in that water and get in there in that water and sit in it. That will actually take away the aches, the pains, and your aura will start to replenish from the life force of that rose, will interact with your actual soul, your actual aura, and it'll actually replenish that. But yeah, it does happen. It does happen. And I don't know if Barbara talks about it in the book, Paulie. Maybe Paulie knows if Barbara talks about that in the book, but I know that that's what we've been teaching for years. So if you can't get roses, you could always get essential oil and put it in there or something like that. Lavender is good too, but rose will bring it back faster. But you can use rose and lavender in there, right? Right. So the uric field, let's see, 7 other layers. The 7th of the connected to the all. It's 20 years old now. So okay, so they're talking about. So Barbara was talking about a lot of other etheric stuff and auric field. So and so I would suggest it. I haven't read it, but I trust that from what Paulie's saying right there, that must be a good book. You might want to take a look at it, guys. I've never read the book, but just from what Paulie's saying, everything that I'm talking about is covered in that book, and probably a lot more that I haven't covered here, right? Right. Yeah. Tears in the auric field this is what happens from alcohol use and different kinds of drugs as well. Right. So your auric field, it can cause problems. You can also stifle yourself when your chakras are out of alignment from doing drugs and alcohol and eating crap food. they've designed that in the foods that we eat, where they're putting in low vibrational things that do damage to us, like fluoride in the water and fluoride in toothpaste, where you're putting it in your mouth and it's crystallizing in a bad way, calcifying your third eye, your pituitary gland, and your optic thalamus. So there, and in some of the foods that you're eating is lowering your vibration and doing the same thing. They're aware of it. Evil people are aware of it. They're aware of how your aura functions and how your soul functions with your aura and your ascension. If you're in service to others, they're aware of it and they know how to lower it. That should tell you something. It is a thing. You should look that up, right? And Joanne said, yes, I've met energy vampires. She met an energy vampire. She used to purposely do that to healers. We found putting our arm over our solar plexus would block her. I found calling in charged archangels. Michael helped her also. Yes, calling in your guides and archangels, especially Michael. Michael is one of the best soldier archangels there are, that have to do with vampires and demons. He works with gargoyles to defend the churches. He's the general in charge of that army, by the way. And so to help you with that. So yeah, literally look into those things. See, Joanne knows it's a thing, right? She's like, yeah, we found. So you can also give them icky energy while protecting your aura, and give them a bad taste in their mouth where they won't want to take your aura anymore. We used to train people to do that. I'm not going to get into the details of that on air. But you can do that so that they can't do it. But however, like Joanne was saying, put your hands on your solar plexus, on that chakra, and that stifles them, because that's where nature is, and that's where their end point to your aura is, through that sacral plexus, sacral chakra, because that's where the brain of your body is, that is in tune with nature, is in that place. So Joanne and them found that defense, apparently, that you literally, if you think somebody is an energy vampire, that's why people sit with their hands crossed, by the way. When you put your hands and you cross them right over your belly button, that's where that comes from, where people sit like that. They sit like that. It's a defensive position where people can't get to your energy. So I have a habit of doing that myself because of that. I didn't think about saying it. So thank you, Joanne, for bringing that up. Cupping your hands in this, and look what that mantra is. Cupping your hands in this form and putting them over your solar plexus, right at your belly button, when you're just sitting, is actually protecting yourself from energy vampires. So think about that, right? Or cupping your hands this way, but specifically this mantra, hand mantra, open, well, or with your fists that way, but it's more comfortable if you open your hands with it that way, and then put that over your belly button, over your solar plexus. That's actually protection. So yeah, that's funny. I didn't think about that. Thank you, Joanne, for bringing that up, right? With doing that, putting your hands over your solar plexus, right? So yeah, you guys, you just have to be aware of that. When you see them, you know who they are. Everybody knows them. You know somebody in your family or your friends that every time you go around them, they suck your energy. Whether they know it or not, most of the time they know what they're doing. But you can't be guaranteed that. Some people don't know what they're doing. They just do it naturally. And they know that when they get around other people, that they become more energetic. They have more energy after they see you. So they start to learn. They may not know the term, they may not know that they're a vampire, but they know that they can take your energy. Most of them are self-serving who do it. It's rare that somebody does energy vampirism on accident. Everyone can do it. It's not a skill that you're born with or not. It's a skill that you get from a choice. If you are evil, if you are self-serving, that's part of one of the upgrades, one of the downloads that they get, is the knowledge of how to do that and how to suck other people's energy. Okay. So people who are in service to others wouldn't think of doing that. So because you would never think of it, it doesn't dawn on you. You don't try to do that unless you accidentally do it. And then you become self-serving if you continue doing it. So if you think you're in service to others and you're sucking people's energy, you're fooling yourself. Your ego's telling you one thing when you're actually doing something different. Okay. Right. Paulie said that's why I use essential oil, rose, absolute when the children are babies on the nipple work. So there you go. Okay. So essential oils to help your children as well, and putting that around them as well. So you want to put up defenses. You want to learn to put up barriers and create bubbles like Carla is doing. And this is how we got onto that, onto the energy vampire thing, because Dawn was asking that question about the circle and the casting of that. So you have to be aware of what's going on all the time, right? You have to be aware of that stuff, and you have to be replenishing that, because you don't know who you're in. When you go out into public, you're driving down the street, you go to a store, you go to a restaurant, you go and do something out in the world. You have no idea, unless you can sense people who are evil and who are not. You could be standing in line at a bank. You could be standing in line at a store buying something. You could be pumping gas, and the person next to you at the pump could be an energy vampire and aware of it. And you're pumping gas, and you don't realize why that happened to you, why you felt the way you felt after you left the gas station. They know. So you need to be aware of that stuff and be able to sense it when it's happening, or be able to replenish yourself when you get caught by that sort of person in your life. All right, let's continue here.
I understand this up to a point. That point is, if the entity were successful in either of these attempts, of what value would this be to him?
Right. Penny said that I need some energy healing. This alignment is kicking my butt. Everybody is having problems either with their energy or with their emotions. Not everybody on the planet, but a lot of people are having problems. A lot of people that I know are having problems. I'm even getting the headaches and things like that's going on, and I'm taking other people's headaches away from them. And I'm taking, being a pain eater, and eating their pain so that they don't have it. I've been working around the clock, almost literally around the clock for the last 3 days. The alignment will be over by this time tomorrow, probably by 3 o'clock in the morning, my time. So it'll be over, and everything will be out of alignment, and the energy will wane. So it won't be so bad, just so you guys know, right? So let's continue here.
Would it increase his ability? Would it increase his polarity? By what mechanism would it do whatever it does? Ra, I am Ra. Having attempted for some of your space/time with no long-lasting result to do these things, the entity may be asking this question of itself. The gain for triumph is an increase in negative polarity to the entity, in that it has removed a source of radiance and thereby offered to this space/time the opportunity of darkness where there once was light. In the event that it succeeded in enslaving the mind/body/spirit complex of the instrument, it would have enslaved a fairly powerful entity, thus adding to its power.
Right. So, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, Penny said I've only been sleeping. Last night was the first night I slept more than 3 hours in the last 4 days. I actually slept for 6 hours or 7 hours, 7 hours yesterday. But yes, and the headaches, right? Cassie says, holy buckets. Yes, headaches. Right? Yeah. Huge and hard. Heart beating. Yes. If you should, I was supposed to talk to you yesterday. Cassie didn't have time. Things were crazy. I was going to talk to you today before the show. Didn't have time. Things were crazy. My poor sister, who was here a little bit ago, I don't know if she's still here. She's been having issues as well. So yeah, I've been literally round the clock working with people and just eating their pain for them, pulling their headaches out of them. And people have been having problems with their stomach. They've been having problems with food. I'm having a problem now today. I hadn't run up to now having problems with food when you eat stuff, with having problems with pain in your stomach from the food. I've been having that today. I noticed it started last night a little bit, where I would eat something and then I was like, am I not drinking enough water? And I was like, wait, this is what everybody else was having, where they were having a problem when they would eat. So some people who are very more sensitive, like Brooke, who's not here right now because she's at work unless she happens to pop in, she's been having problems for like a week, more than a week, to where she's been having problems with the when she eats food, having hardly able to eat anything. And I had to work with her on that. I had to pull some of that away from her so that she could eat, because she was having issues. And I know, Cassie, you kind of do that as well, so you might want to look into that. But headaches, she keeps getting pounded, and I keep pulling her headache from her, and then and then she'll get it back in 20 or 30 minutes, and then I'll pull it from her. And that hurts when you do that. If you're a pain eater, that hurts when you do that. You feel their pain. That's where they got the idea of the Corsican brothers, because one of the Corsican brothers, they were pain eaters and they didn't know it. And so they would feel each other's pain and they'd be able to take away each other's pain. So then they turned into a comedy where they were hurting themselves to hurt their brother, and they would feel the pain. And so they were doing that. It was funny with Cheech and Chong playing the Corsican brothers. Anyway, so if you don't have somebody around you that has that empathic ability to be able to pull your pain away from you or anything else that you have discomfort wise, and then transmute it, and she was, Brooke, when I did that, she was like, I can't just let you do that because if you're getting as much pain as I have. And I'm like, well, those of us who are pain eaters have an incredible high tolerance for pain because of that. So what you feel when I get it from you is far more dull than the way you feel it. So I know that to you, you think it's really bad because it hurts you. I have probably 5 times or 10 times the tolerance to pain that you do. So because of that, I can deal with that pain that you have and transmute it. We have to take it first, then we have to push it out to the universe, but we can take it and we feel the pain and then we push the pain out. And so we have to be careful how we do that, though, because we don't want to take on things that we get from people. Yeah, but the sleep thing and the food thing, yeah, even Paulie said, me too, barely any sleep, right? Barely any sleep. Yeah, same, not eating much. Yeah, that's going to all end after tonight, guys. It'll start to wane and for like people that are in Australia, the same thing. It's on the 28th, so they're on the 29th now in Australia, and it's starting to move to the 29th everywhere else, or going the other way, because that's west, heading west, coming back this way in the east. So literally, you guys just got to hold on a little bit longer. But if you know somebody who can take your pains away for the next 14 to 18 hours, you might want to get a hold of somebody so that you can they can pull those things away from you so they can help you. Align your chakras, Joanne said. Align your chakras with the planets now. Just ask the angels to align them, right? I'll put that up on the screen so you guys can see that. So, right, realign your chakras, and that does help you. When your body's more efficient, then you won't have these out of whack scenarios. So if you can align your chakras, use the alignment from the planets to do so now, because they're aligned. Use that energy, and the reason that you're feeling the problems that you're feeling is you're not really aligned, and so you're hurting. And it's usually manifests in the crown chakra, where you feel the pain, or where the stomach. If your lungs are bothering you, you look at the chakra that's attached to. So balance yourself, align your chakras, and most of that's going to dissipate pretty quickly, guys. Meditate, align your chakras. Right? Yeah, very little sleep. Cassie said very little sleep. Same here, very little sleep and hardly any food too. Who else was talking there? Everybody, you just gotta, balance yourself and use the energy from this alignment to align yourself. There's 7 planets. 7 planets are aligned. 7 chakras. There's a reason for this that's happening with the 7 planets. 7 planets, 7 chakras. There's a chakra to represent each planet that is aligning. So utilize that. Utilize that to balance yourself, and then move on from there. But yeah, let's continue with what Rob's talking about here.
80.8 Questioner. I am sorry for my lack of penetration of these mechanisms, and I apologize for some rather stupid questions. But I think we have here a point that is somewhat central to what we are presently attempting to understand. So even though my next questions may be almost unacceptably stupid, I will attempt to try to understand what this power that our visitor seeks is and how he uses it. For it seems to me that this is central to the mind and the evolution of it in which we are involved. As this entity that is our visitor increases his power through these works, what is the power that he increases? Can you describe it? R.A. I am Ra. The power of which you speak is a spiritual power. The powers of the mind, as such, do not encompass such works as these. You may, with some fruitfulness, consider the possibilities of moonlight. You are aware that we have described the matrix of the spirit as a night. The moonlight, then, offers either a true picture seen in shadow or chimera and falsity. The power of falsity is deep as is the power to discern truth from shadow. The shadow of hidden things is an infinite depth in which is stored the power of the one infinite creator. The adept, then, is working with the power of hidden things illuminated by that which can be false or true. To embrace falsity, to know it, to seek it, and to use it gives a power that is most great. This is the nature of the power of your visitor and may shed some light upon the power of one who seeks in order to serve others as well, for the missteps in the night are oh so easy. 80.9 Questioner, are you saying, then, that...
Right, Cassie, you just got to work on try to get the like you were saying, try to get the chakra balancing, and now's a good time because it's already aligning. That's what they're there doing. So now's a good time. So I would suggest tonight, look up a chakra balancing for all 7, and most of the time they want to just throw one at you. So you could do that, and then do short ones, and then start with the base, and then move up through your chakras and utilize this energy to balance all of that. You do that, and you're going to feel a lot better tomorrow by doing that. Probably sleep better tonight too. Right? Do that. Throw some THC down your gullet or smoke it. Get some THC in you, and do those alignments, and maybe smudge yourself with some sage or what is that, Monsanto or one of the others, maybe even patchouli, whatever you like, whatever helps you the best. I have that 5% native in me, so the white sage really works for me. But I love all the other ones. I love patchouli. Most people don't like it. I like the scent of patchouli, and people are like, same thing with sage, but people don't like white sage either. So is it Paul Monsanto, the really good smelling one? Am I saying that right? Am I saying that wrong? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. That's always good too. Sandalwood is another one. If you don't have frankincense and myrrh is pretty smelling. That's why the churches use them, because they're pleasing and they do the same thing. So that's primarily why. So you can use any of that to help smudge yourself and set the aura around you. Palo Santo. I knew I was saying it slightly wrong. Thank you, Penny. Thank you, Penny. I was saying it with an M, wasn't I? So I was saying it like the place. So Palo Santo. So that one is, most people like the smell of that one, but I can't guarantee whether you like it or not. And then Shelly was jumping in there with it too. Thank you, guys. I knew I was saying it slightly wrong. I'm like, am I saying that wrong? I'm not saying that right. Thank you. So if you've never smelled that, Cassie, you might want to look into that one, because those smell good. Any of that stuff that the churches do use. So the most pungent would probably be the patchouli. I like patchouli. White sage is kind of pungent, so some people don't like it. If you want to get to something a little bit more sweet, the Palo Santo, the frankincense and myrrh, put those two together. One is a resin. It's really, I used to get the resins and use those in a decanter instead of using the sticks. But if you have them around, do that, right? So Penny says she's doing the Palo Santo now. Yeah. Some people really like that smell. I do too. It's actually pleasing. So that one works, right? There you go. Cassie says, love that stuff too. Love Palo Santo. Yeah. That's one of the ones that's far more pleasing that you can use to help set the aura, to smudge and set the aura. I was talking to Brooke the other day, and she lit some, and she was like, oh my God, I love the smell of this. And I was like, I know, right? I don't have any right now, but that's actually one of the more pleasing. But if somebody's aggressive, you want to get aggressive, then the white sage is really good for aggressive, or the frankincense and myrrh. But if you use any of those, they smell really good. That'll help set the tone for you, to help you get into that place, pulling you up out of the physical into the spiritual realm by clearing you out and pulling you up a little bit. And then if you get some DMT in you, or THC in you, that's the reason why they call it high. They'll pull you up into your higher chakra, and then you can at that point balance your chakras easier. I know that a lot of people would get annoyed with me for saying that and suggesting that, but we're all adults here, so I'm not worried about children. If you guys are children around the world, you should look into that stuff anyways, whether your parents like it or not. But I don't suggest that you do it when you're underage and get your parents mad at you. So don't anybody try to sue me because I'm not giving advice to children. Right. So let's continue. Right. Yeah. Mild. We only get mild Palo Santo in England. I can see that. So, well, I don't even know if you guys have white sage there or or any of the other more aggressive stuff, right? Well, I bet you have patchouli there, because I'm sure you have people from the Middle East that have moved into the UK, to England, just like here in America. So you can get, that's more readily available. But still, right? No telling, because some places you can't get things, and the UK is a little bit restrictive. I know there was some stuff that when I had my website up that I couldn't ship to England because they wouldn't allow your people to buy that stuff over there. There was some stuff that's banned that you guys just don't get access to, in a weird way that I wouldn't think you guys would. I thought you guys would have more religious freedoms than you do over there. And when people were like, no, we can't buy that stuff, they won't even let people have those companies over here. So I was providing that service because we can mail it to you. But even then, there's stuff here in California that California won't let people buy from even other states in the United States and have shipped into California. I don't like, unless you're buying something that's going to damage someone, a poison or a toxic something or radiation or, bombs and tanks. I don't think that any governing body should be dictating what you can and can't do with your mind, what you can and can't do with your thought processes. I don't care who they are. That needs to be stopped. We shouldn't be able to have that. Right. So Joanne said, I bought some Palo Santo from Glastonbury. Yeah, there you go. Glastonbury. So it's a province problem over there in England. It looks like it's a city or a county problem in England, not necessarily a nationwide issue, because Joanne's kind of giving you a little bit of a hint of where you can go and buy some. All right, let's continue here. Rick, welcome, brother. Right. I love, Rick, that you put the chakras up in hearts there. Let me put that on the screen so people can see that. I love that you did that, bro. That's kind of cool that you put those up there in order the way you did. That's that, because we're talking about balancing them. Balance them today. How are we today? And he throws the chakras up with hearts. Whether you knew it or not, Rick, you were apropos in doing exactly what you did, because that's what we're literally discussing right now, is utilizing these 7 planetary bodies that are in line today to balance your 7 chakras and the archetypes and protect yourself from energy vampires at the same time. That's hilarious. Okay, let's continue.
This power is of the spirit and not of the mind or the body. Ra, I am Ra. The work of the adept is based upon previous work with the mind and the body, else work with the spirit would not be possible on a dependable basis. With this comment we may assert the correctness of your assumption. 80.10 Questioner. Now, the 15th archetype, which is the matrix of the spirit, has been called the devil. Can you tell me why that is so? Ra, I am Ra. We do not wish to be facile in such a central query, but we may note that the nature of the spirit is so infinitely subtle that the fructifying influence of light upon the great darkness of the spirit is very often not as apparent as the darkness itself. The progress chosen by many adepts becomes a confused path as each adept attempts to use the catalyst of the spirit.
Yeah, reset eBay. I used to love eBay until they banned me from there. I still have one account up there, but I was selling stuff on eBay, and if you didn't pay eBay back in the day, this was in 2016, if you didn't pay them to have a paid account on eBay, you could only sell 15 items a day. So I opened 5 accounts so that I could sell more than 15 items per day. And they found out that I made multiple accounts, and they banned all my accounts, and I had to make a brand new account. And so since then, I stopped selling on eBay, but I used to sell on eBay. At that point, I went to Amazon and started selling on Amazon, and I was on Etsy and Bonanza. Bonanza, I don't know if it's still a thing. They probably sold to somebody, but at the time, Etsy was only a site for homemade things, and it was still in England at the time. And I had a storefront there, and I was selling there. And I've heard that they've opened up to allow people to sell not just that specifically homemade things anymore. So they'd be smart to do that because they can move into a bigger audience and maybe compete with Amazon. But I had a storefront on Amazon and on Etsy and on Bonanza, which I haven't looked up lately, so I don't know if they're still a thing. And I used to sell products all over the world on those platforms and buy stuff from all over the world on those platforms. But I don't do that anymore. But I used to hustle money that way. I used to literally just have a store. So then I went to a website. Instead of selling on those platforms, I made my own platform, and I had that for a minute, but I had issues with with Google and the platform that I had with the verification code for security for credit card transactions. So I took the website down. I'm thinking about putting it back up, and then try and fix that. And then if that doesn't work, integrate PayPal and some of these other apps that already have the security on them, because they didn't have those back then when I had that. PayPal had just barely started, and some of these other places that automatically protect your credit card transactions. So we didn't have that option back then. So I'm thinking about starting up my website again. And we had over 1 million items for sale that were worldwide. We could ship anywhere in the world. So I was just talking about that yesterday, where I'm thinking about restarting up that website. It would only cost me probably about $300 to get that website back up and operational. So I'm seriously considering it. All right, let's continue.
Few there are which are successful in grasping the light of the sun. By far, the majority of
that's what happened. I was unaware of that. Peter said Amazon owned the website Etsy. Now it's part of their platform. I was wondering what happened with that, because you see commercials every now and then where they talk about it, but it was really big before. So I guess the Amazon, before they got big enough to be global, they had Etsy in the UK. So now that makes more sense, because Etsy kind of, I was like, they could have gotten really big, and what happened? And okay, so now I understand that. Peter, thank you for that.
Adepts remain groping in the moonlight, and, as we have said, this light can deceive as well as uncover hidden mystery. Therefore, the melody, shall we say, of this matrix often seems to be of a negative and evil, as you would call it, nature. It is also to be noted that an adept is one which has freed itself more and more from the constraints of the thoughts, opinions, and bonds of other selves. Whether this is done for service to others or service to self, it is a necessary part of the awakening of the adept. This freedom is seen by those not free as what you would call evil or black. The magic is recognized, the nature is often not. 80.11 Questioner, could I say, then, that implicit in the process of becoming adept is the possible partial polarization towards service to self, because simply the adept becomes disassociated with many of his kind or like in the particular density which he inhabits. Ra, I am Ra. This is likely to occur. The apparent happening is disassociation, whether the truth is service to self and thus true disassociation from other selves, or service to others and thus true association with the heart of all other selves, and disassociation only from the illusory husks which prevent the adept from correctly perceiving the self and other self as one. 80.12 Questioner, then you say that this effect of disassociation on the service to others adept is a stumbling block or slowing process in reaching that goal which he aspires to. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect. This disassociation from the miasma of illusion and misrepresentation of each and every distortion is a quite necessary portion of an adept's path. It may be seen by others to be unfortunate. 80.13 Questioner, then is this, from the point of view or with respect to the 15th archetype, somewhat of an excursion into the matrix of the spirit in this process? Does that make any sense? Ra, I am Ra. The excursion of which you speak in the process of disassociation is most usually linked with that archetype you call hope, which we would prefer to call faith. This archetype is the catalyst of the spirit and, because of the illuminations of the potentiator of the spirit, will begin to cause these changes in the adept's viewpoint.
All right, I'll be right back. I got to run to the restroom really quickly. I've been drinking a lot of coffee and water. I'm going to let this play, and I'll come back. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I can always go back and address those. Right, so I shouldn't be too long, but I got to go and do that and relieve myself. I will be back.
80.14 Questioner, I didn't intend to get too far ahead of my questioning process here. The either positively or negatively polarized adept, then, is building a potential to draw directly on the spirit for power. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. It would be more proper to say that the adept is calling directly through the spirit to the universe for its power, for the spirit is a shuttle. 80.15 Questioner, now, the obvious only significant difference, I believe, between the positive and negative adept in using this shuttle is the way they had polarized. Is there a relationship between the archetypes of the spirit and whether the polarization is either positive or negative? Is, for instance, the positive calling through the 16th and the chuckling negative calling through the 15th archetype? I am very confused on these points, and I imagine that question is poor or meaningless. Can you answer that? Ra, I am Ra. It is a challenge to answer such a query, for there is some confusion in its construction. However, we shall attempt to speak upon the subject. The adept, whether positive or negative, has the same matrix. The potentiator is also identical. Due to the catalyst of each adept, the adept may begin to pick and choose that into which it shall look further. The experience of the spirit, that which you have called the moon, is then, by far, the more manifest of influences upon the polarity of the adept. Even the most unhappy of experiences, shall we say, which seem to occur in the catalyst of the adept, seen from the viewpoint of the spirit, may, with the discrimination possible in shadow, be worked with until light equaling the light of brightest noon descends upon the adept in positive or service to others illumination has occurred. The service to self-adept will satisfy itself with the shadows and, grasping the light of day, will toss back the head in grim laughter, preferring the darkness. 80.16 Questioner: I guess that the 19th archetype of the spirit would be the significator of the spirit. Is that correct? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct. 80.17 Questioner: How would you describe the significator of the spirit? Ra: I am Ra. In answer to the previous query we said about doing just this. The significator of the spirit is that living entity which either radiates or absorbs the love and the light of the one infinite creator, radiates it to others or absorbs it for the self. 80.18 Questioner: Then would this process of radiation or absorption, since we have what I would call a flux or flux rate, be the measure of the power of the adept? Ra: I am Ra. This may be seen to be a reasonably adequate statement. 80.19 Questioner: Then for the 20th archetype I'm guessing that this is the transformation of the spirit, possibly analogous to the 6th density merging of the paths. Is this in any way correct? Ra: I am Ra. No. 80.20 Questioner: Sorry about that. Can you tell me what the 20th archetype would be? Ra: I am Ra. That which you call the sarcophagus in your system may be seen to be the material world, if you will. This material world is transformed by the spirit into that which is infinite and eternal. The infinity of the spirit is an even greater realization than the infinity of consciousness, for consciousness which has been disciplined by will and faith is that consciousness which may contact intelligent infinity directly. There are many things which fall away in the many steps of adepthood. We, of RA, still walk these steps and praise the one infinite creator at each transformation. 80.21 Questioner:
Right. So the sarcophagus that they're talking about, that would be in the pyramid as well, in the king's chamber, what they call the king's chamber, where there's a sarcophagus in there. That was the same representation. The stations that were in there, the energy fields that were in that pyramid as you moved from what they call the queen's chamber into the king's chamber, was the ascension of those same alignments in the archetypes for the chakras and the archetypes of moving through into the etheric plane and the transformation. That was what the pyramid was really built for, but most people think that it was built for something completely different. But it was all align and balance, like Joanne said, align and balance. So it's it's apropos to now, because here we are with this opportunity with this galactic alignment, or specifically this planetary alignment, to be able to do the exact same thing. And tonight being the precipice or apex of this alignment. Well, really last night was the apex, but you can still utilize this before it wanes too much out of alignment, and align yourself, because it's forcing everyone to do it. And some people are feeling it in their stomach, some are feeling it in their crown chakra, and some are feeling it in their body aching. And other people are feeling pulled out and stretched out of the physical, and sort of halfway in between the two. This is being done to us on purpose by this stuff that's happening here on this specific date, right? February 28th, last day of February 2025. Do the math on that, right? Add that up. 2 + 2 + 8 + 2 + 0 + 2 + 5, right? Do the math on that. Okay, so let's continue here.
Then I would guess that the 21st archetype would represent the contact with intelligent infinity. Is that correct? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct, although one may also see the reflection of this contact, as well as the contact with intelligent energy, which is the universe, or, as you have called it somewhat provincially, the world. 80.22 Questioner: Then by this contact also with intelligent energy, can you give me an example of what this would be for both? For the contact with intelligent infinity and intelligent energy. Could you give me an example of what type of experience this would result in, if that's at all possible? Ra, I am Ra. This shall be the last query of this working of full length. We have discussed.
Yes. Yeah, Penny said the smile and the shake of your head at mom or the cat showed. I was actually looking at both. I got up when I came back. I sat down and I got right back up. It's because my mom had a glass of soda next to a glass of water because I gave her soda for lunch but didn't take it and put it away. And her glass of water, and the cat was sleeping up on the back of her chair. And she climbed down because she wanted to get something to drink and realized that her water was high enough in her glass to drink it. And my mom was trying to help her, but the glass of soda was in the way. So I got back up, took the glass of soda and put it in the refrigerator, sat back down. The cat climbed down, turned around. My mom was holding the glass of water while the cat was licking water out of her glass. And my mom looked at me and I smiled and nodded at her and waved at her because the cat was daintily drinking her water while looking right into my mom's eyes. And my mom was looking at me. And then when she got done, the cat jumped back up on the chair behind my mom, turned around and laid back down. And so I was looking right at my mom, smiling at her because she was assisting the cat to take a drink. So Penny saw that and made a comment about that. I didn't put it up on the screen, but that was me looking at my mom and looking at her and smiling at her lovingly while she was assisting the cat. She's looking at me like I'm helping the cat get a drink of my water. So I forgot that I was on camera when I did that. Okay, let's continue here.
The possibilities of contact with intelligent energy. For this energy is the energy of the logos, and thus it is the energy which heals, builds, removes, destroys, and transforms all other selves as well as the self. The contact with intelligent infinity is most likely to produce an unspeakable joy in the entity experiencing such contact. If you wish to query in more detail upon this subject, we invite you to do so in another working. Is there a brief query before we close this working? 80.23 Questioner, is there anything that we can do to improve the contact or to make the instrument more comfortable? Ra, I am Ra. The alignments are most conscientious. We are appreciative. The entity which serves as instrument is somewhat distorted towards that condition you call stiffness of the dorsal regions. Manipulation would be helpful. I am Ra. I leave you, my friends, glorying in the light and the love of the one infinite creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite creator. Adonai.
Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and start the next session because we're already here. We might as well. I can still continue. So I'm going to go ahead and open this one up and then I'll
March 20.
Primed here and I'll share it and we'll go ahead and start the next session because we can. We'll see how far we get with that this week. So let me go ahead and get session 81 queued up here and let me go back into full screen here once because that automatically takes me out of that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start that. So literally we're the alignment of the chakras and how to align the chakras is something that you need to work on. Weirdly, Ra's talking about that on a day when we have this planetary alignment. It's so weird and apropos and serendipitous how Ra coincides with, I started it on a certain day and I'm playing certain things and it so happens to, and a lot of people say this where they hear the podcast, they're like, weirdly, the correlation between events of the day that's going on around the world and when you're talking about specific things from Ra. But I've noticed that it's very much in tune that way, including when you start listening to some of the stuff that I talk about. If you go backwards and start at the beginning, you'll see how it pertains to you in the moment that you were listening to it. It's kind of like opening the Bible up to any section in the Bible after you ask yourself a question and you flip open the Bible and start reading it. You're going to find that all of a sudden they're talking about what you were asking about. Weirdly, like as if you're using a pendulum to answer the questions. Danny Dunn did that with his books that he put out. I said happy birthday to him the other day. It was his birthday. And he's got a bunch of books that are out. I forgot the name of them now. But if you look up Danny Dunn on Facebook, you can see his books where he's literally does that. He has different inspirational things written on each page So you could literally ask a question and open up the thing, or just randomly open up his book to a page and read it, and you'll see a positive affirmation for you there. He has like 4 of those books out now. He and I used to have him on my podcast talking to him years ago, but I have him for a long time. He's busy with his life doing things, so I never had a chance to talk to him. Okay, so let me do a sound check on session 81, and we'll get started, okay?
March 22nd, 1982. 81.0 Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. 81.1 Questioner, could you first please tell me the condition of the instrument?
Yeah, Joanne said that's exactly how spirit works. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, truly. So yeah, so weirdly things, if you start getting in tune with nature, or with yourself and with nature, with this matrix, you're going to realize that cyclical nature of things is really actually inherent in everything. And you'll see that's why the Bible code, that's why they came up with the code, or the idea of the Bible code, wondering if there was a code in the Bible, because of how much synchronicity there seemed to be between spirituality and this multiplex that is the matrix. And it is really that way. It's kind of weird in that respect, right? Right. Yeah. Peter says, I remember the first time that you started playing the Raw live on a specific day, the same intertwined with the planets and everything happens for a reason at the same time. Absolutely. Right. So once you start realizing that, usually it takes people to be a little bit more awake to see that synchronicity in things, that cyclical nature of things, and you start to wake up to it, and all of a sudden, like I was talking about on Wednesday, because Brooke did that like the day before. So on Wednesday, when Reese was talking about that, how seeing things differently and starting to see things, it seems like things are more brilliant, colors are brighter, and things are more positive, or that he was seeing things like that. And I said, that's part of it. That's part of what happens, is you start, all of a sudden you look around in nature and you go, wow, everything's so green. That's weird. That plant is so beautiful. I didn't notice that before. You start doing that and you start seeing things differently because you're different and your vibration is at a higher level. And so because of that, you perceive nature in a different way. Nature perceives you in a different way as well. And I tell people that literally, that animals who are wild animals who normally fear humans will look at you, and at first they go, oh crap, a human, and then they go, oh wait, and they'll look at you, and then you can look at them and go, hi, hey, how you doing? And they won't run from you. When you, like cats that are outside, most of the time, if you turn and look at them, they'll go, they're oh, crap, and then if you keep looking at them, they'll run away. When you change to where you're not a threat to them, if you're in service to others, you'll see them and they'll go, oh crap, and then they'll go, oh, and then they'll look at you and they'll still be a little bit leery, but they won't immediately run away from you, because your thought process isn't to get them, to hurt them. So when you talk to them, then they relax a little bit, and then they know you're not going to come get them. So literally, because animals don't make eye contact with one another, if they don't know each other, they try to not do that. If it's a predator, that they try to, or someone that's in a higher pecking order, they will make sure that they don't look at them, because they're trying to not create a situation where they are in any way challenging them. And they'll do that with humans as well. But when you change, you start seeing nature, and you start seeing it as far more beautiful, clouds and birds and plants and trees and everything, because you're starting to see the love and the light that is in them, instead of just seeing positive or negative, or just seeing nothing and just seeing a plant or an animal. And all of a sudden you don't look at a cat or a dog and go, it's just a dog, shoot it, who cares? You all of a sudden go, and that's a living thing, that's a life. Don't do that, right? So when that changes in you, they sense that change in you, as well as you sensing that they haven't changed, they're the same, but you're perceiving them as different, right? Yeah, right. Penny says the animals, they see the heart. Yeah, they see your intention, whether you're good or evil. They see that when they look at you. Instinctively, they know it, because they're more in tune with nature than you are.
Ra, I am Ra. The physical complex energy is in deficit at this particular space/time nexus due to prolonged psychic accentuation.
Oh, Brianna, welcome. I didn't say hi. I just realized that Brianna said something in the chat and I didn't say hello. That's the first time I saw your name, so welcome. You probably said something before and I didn't notice it. Welcome.
And of pre-existing distortions. The remainder of the energy complex levels are as previously stated. 81.2 Questioner, is this the reason for the instrument's feeling of uninterrupted weariness? Ra,
See, and there's Brooke. I just was talking about her and she popped in. I was just talking, Brooke, I literally was just saying, talking about the change in people and the change in us as we change in our ascension and we start seeing nature for how beautiful it is. And I was talking because we were talking about it on Wednesday when Reese talked about it on Wednesday, and I brought up that you were that you were doing that and you had seen things and you were taking pictures and showing me one time and talking about that and how everything was so much more beautiful, and that's a change in you, and that nature is also seeing that. And so I was literally just saying that and just talked about you and you popped back in. That's hilarious right there. All right, let's continue. Your ears must have been burning. It was timing. Serendipitous timing. You had your break. All right, let's continue.
Amra. There are portions of your space/time in which this may be said to be symptomatic of the psychic greeting reaction. However, the continual weariness is not due to psychic greeting but is rather an inevitable consequence of this contact. 81.3 Questioner, why is this an inevitable consequence? What is the mechanism of contact creating weariness? Ra, I am Ra. The mechanism creating weariness is that connection betwixt the density wherein this instrument's mind/body/spirit complex is safely kept during these workings and the altogether variant density in which the instrument's physical body complex resides at this space/time. As the instrument takes on more of the coloration of the resting density, the third density experience seems more heavy and wearisome. This was accepted by the instrument, as it desired to be of service. Therefore, we accept also this effect about which nothing of which we are aware may be done. 81.4 Questioner, is the effect a function of the number of sessions, and has it reached a peak level or will it continue to increase in effect? Ra, I am Ra. This wearying effect will continue but should not be confused with the physical energy levels, having only to do with the, as you would call it, daily round of experience. In this sphere those things which are known already to aid this instrument will continue to be of aid. You will, however, notice the gradual increase in transparency, shall we say, of the vibrations of the instrument. 81.5 Questioner, I didn't understand what you meant by that last statement. Would you explain? Ra, I am Ra. Weariness of the time/space nature may be seen to be that reaction of transparent or pure vibrations with impure, confused, or opaque environs. 81.6 Questioner, is there any of this effect upon the other two of us in this group? Ra, I am Ra. This is quite correct. 81.7 Questioner, then we would also experience the uninterrupted wearying effect as a consequence of the contact. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. The instrument, by the very nature of the contact, bears the brunt of this effect. Each of the support group, by offering the love and the light of the one infinite creator in unqualified support in these workings and in energy transfers for the purpose of these workings, experiences between 10 and 15%, roughly, of this effect. It is cumulative and identical in the continual nature of its manifestation. 81.8 Questioner, what could be the result of this continued wearying effect after a long period? Ra, I am Ra. You ask a general query with infinite answers. We shall overgeneralize in order to attempt to reply. One group might be tempted and thus lose the very contact which caused the difficulty. So the story would end. Another group might be strong at first but not faithful in the face of difficulty. Thus the story would end. Another group might choose the path of martyrdom in its completeness and use the instrument until its physical body complex failed from the harsh toll demanded when all energy was gone. This particular group, at this particular nexus, is attempting to conserve the vital energy of the instrument. It is attempting to balance love of service and wisdom of service, and it is faithful to the service in the face of difficulty. Temptation has not yet ended this group's story. We may not know the future, but the probability of this situation continuing over a relatively substantial period of your space/time is large. The significant factor is the will of the instrument and of the group to serve. That is the only cause for balancing the slowly increasing weariness which will continue to distort your perceptions. Without this will the contact might be possible but finally seem too much of an effort. 81.9 Questioner. The instrument would like to know why she has a feeling of increased vital energy. Ra. I am Ra. We leave this answer to the instrument. 81.10 Questioner. She would like to know if she has an increased sensitivity to foods.
Right. Yeah. Polly said in ancient Hindu tradition, right? So in ancient Hindu tradition, they tell us that the soul is located in the solar plexus, heart chakra, right? Third eye and crown. Well, I mean, that's the upper chakras, the upper four, or the upper five, or almost most of them truly. In a sense, yes. I mean, depending on where you reside, right? Depending on where you reside is where you're going to reside, unless you reside in the totality. But I agree, because most people think that we're inside the brain. That somehow the brain is the essence of the human body. But the people don't realize that what we call the heart now, the Greeks used to call the optic thalamus the heart. So it was after that, years later, that it got transformed down to they just called this the blood pump. This was the life pump, was the heart. That's what they called it. They didn't call it the heart. The heart was your pituitary gland, or your third eye. Your optic thalamus was the heart. That was what they called that. It was later on that somewhere lost in translation, probably from the Romans, that was called the heart. What we use now is the term for heart, because it literally meant the life force, or where your soul resided. So when we say, you're saying that the soul resides in the heart, it truly, that was here in the third eye, not where your two eyes are. And when somebody, and this is what I tell people, when you are ascending, and most of the time I don't say it until you say it to me, if I'm one of your guides, because I like for it to come through organically. But you will have the sensation at some point that you will feel taller. Weirdly, I feel taller. And you'll say that because what's happening is, when you open your third eye, you start also seeing from these two eyes, this physical place. You start seeing through your third eye as well. And your third eye, when you first open it up, is looking up, and you have to turn it to look. But then you realize that you look around with it. So once you start seeing through your third eye, you get the sensation of being taller, because you're actually seeing not just from this level, you're seeing from up here as well, right? Where your third eye is. So you're literally like an inch taller, 2 inches taller in your perception of the world, but you don't know why that's happened. So usually when someone says that to me, I oddly feel like I'm taller and everything's beautiful, because you're now perceiving things not just through these eyes, not just through the matrix, you're seeing them now from your higher self as well. And so if you feel more than an inch taller, then that's because you're residing in your higher self, which is outside of the body. And you're starting to see things from the top down, as well as from the eyes. So you're actually seeing things differently, and you feel taller. And that is a good sign, because when you get into that place, when you're in that place where you can sense that, when you achieve that, you can sense that seeingness from there. And if you get caught back into this matrix on accident, you'll feel shorter. Why do I feel shorter today? Because you're diminished. So you need to be aware of that and pull yourself back out of this matrix. So that's how I tell if I'm not in that higher plane of existence, which is where you're trying to get when you're meditating. Anyways, when you're meditating, you're trying to achieve being out of body and perceiving the world from your higher self. You still see through these eyes, but you also see through your third eye, which means that you're coming from a higher plane. So if you get used to being in that place all the time, you get used to feeling tall like that. And then if you get caught in the matrix and it diminishes you, you'll feel smashed. You'll feel shorter. And you'll go, wow, why do I feel short today? Why does everything feel shorter? Because you're shorter, because you're not as high as you were before in vibration. So you have to, that's a good thing. That's part of a teaching tool that we use. When you start to perceive it, then we tell you why you're perceiving it that way, and that you're trying to achieve that at all times, because some people can't meditate and they have a hard time with it. We can also teach you ways of non-meditational ways of meditating and I've done that many times on air, where we show you that you do it naturally anyway. So you don't have to sit down in the lotus position and do all those things, because some people can't do that. and it's harder for them to quiet their mind, and you can't do that long enough to meditate. So we teach you how to quiet your mind without going through those steps. And once you start learning how to do that, then some people can then get into meditating, but some people just can't do it. And that's where we talk about learning the Zen. That's what Zen was created for, people who can't meditate. Because some people can do it as prayer, some people can do it as meditation, some people can't do either. And then that's when the Zen comes into play, because you reach that Zen moment all the time. And the Zen moment is the same thing without meditation. And so then we'll move people into Taoism and Buddhism and Zen, learning that, because if you can learn those techniques, then you can achieve the same thing in the same place spiritually and put yourself into that higher plane at all times. And then you'll feel taller when you're there, so you'll know you're there. And then you'll feel smaller when you're not, and you'll learn to know that. And so you'll learn that all of a sudden you'll look around and go, I feel small today. Uh-oh, I know why. And then you move yourself into that plane, right? So sorry, I still had that up on the screen, didn't I? I didn't take that down. I apologize for that. But I forgot that was there in the chat scrolled, and I didn't take that down. I had to scroll back up to take it down. So, right, yeah, stretched out and taller, right? Cassie's saying, right. So you were saying that yeah, because she was saying, I hope you're all doing well, stretched out and taller, because that's where we're trying to get in the meditative state, right? Yeah, right. Brooke said walking meditation is also amazing, right? Well, it's easier for me in quieting the mind when I go out into nature. See, so Brooke couldn't sit and try and do that meditative state, but she can go out and be in nature. And that's why we tell you go out and be in nature, because some people become attached to nature better than if they're in a place trying to sit down and meditate. I can do either. And that's why I teach that. I can do all of those forms. That's why I teach them. But Brooke instinctively realized she can do that. So she goes for walks. She goes out in nature, because she is more aligned with the sacral plexus in her personality. Even though she's very high in vibration, she's more nature oriented. So those of you who are nature more oriented, you're going to find that to be more of a Zen thing for you. So if you're living in a modern city that doesn't have access to natural things, you're going to feel lost a lot. And if you can't meditate to quiet the mind, then going out into nature is going to be harder for you, because you live in a city where there isn't a park or somewhere where you can go to. But if you're not, and you live in a rural area, there are alternatives so that you can find that place. And Brooks is going on nature walks, and I miss that. I don't, but I have nature around me. I'm lucky that I live in an apartment complex that has a lot of trees. It's literally called Heritage Oaks, because there are oak trees all in here, and heritage oak trees, and the energy from oak trees, if you guys know anything about them, is phenomenal. They're old, and heritage oaks are very old. It's like going into the redwood forest. If you've never gone to the redwood forest here in California, and you have a chance to go to the redwood forest, if you like nature, you need to go to the redwood forest, because wow, man, those trees are so big. They are miles high, not literally, but my God, they're huge, and they're big around, and they're just old. They've been here longer than this country has. Some of those trees are older than some of those trees are 400 and 500 years old. They're still alive. I mean, they make us look like a flea that dies every 10 seconds compared to them. So if you can ever do it, do it. It's just something that's spectacular. I haven't been for a while, and I want to go back, right? Right, Joanne said, I love meditation and also walking in nature. Yes, with gratitude. So yeah, I don't meditate as much as I used to, because I'm in that state. I literally pull myself into that state. I'm sitting in that state right now. I'm sitting in the state where the ego is not talking to me, the mind is not talking to me, and I'm literally talking to you from my higher self, channeling that from my higher self. And that's one of the reasons why I pull my glasses off all the time, so there is no glare, so people can see my eyes. I put myself in that state at all times, so I don't have to actually sit down and meditate, but I can, and sometimes I do it. But I love going out into nature, and people think I'm weird because I'll walk out of the house and I'll walk by a tree, and I'll put my arm around the tree and tap on the tree, and then say something to the tree. How you doing, buddy? How you doing today? and I'll walk by off, and I know that people see me, and sometimes they look at me like, okay, that was weird, and I'm like, you don't understand. You don't see the tree as anything. It's just something that's there, and you don't know it as a living entity. But I don't say that to them because they just don't know that. And some people see it, and I'll see them see it, and I'll walk up and put my arm around the tree and pat the tree and talk to the tree, and they'll look at me and they'll smile because they know what I'm seeing, and they'll smile, and we'll have that moment where they'll look at me and I'll look at them, and we both kind of do that Santa Claus look, at one another, and then we go about our lives, right? Risen Nation, welcome. I didn't say hi to you a minute ago when you first popped in and said hello, right? Right. So Brooke said, I can also still my mind while still, but, and then the thing scrolling, so I have to read it off the screen over here. But it takes more effort. I like using frequency music. I forgot that she told me that. Yeah, I forgot you told me that. Calming my mind when laying or sitting still. I like some of that frequency music as well. I do a lot of that with just music in general. Peter does that too. Peter knows all the frequencies to be able to do that. All right. And Risen Nation said, look inside. There's more nature than you can imagine if you've never done that before. If you've never before. Yeah. Look, you can see that within yourself, first of all, and then get in touch with nature. Right. Penny says, I miss trees so much. And sleeping under it, it was above my bedroom, right? That's the one that disappeared, right? Or one that fell. Yeah. Everything organic. Yeah, everything organic has life. Yeah, absolutely, right. So you have to look at that stuff. Joanne said, Facebook, stop kicking me out, please. I'm enjoying where I am. I don't need to see crystal sail right now. Yeah, that happens sometimes where you get on. For some reason, you'll get Facebook bumping you out of the group over and over, right? Look at Brianna, right? Look at that, right? I just got home from a new moon sound bath tonight. She was talking to Cassie, telling Cassie that, but I thought I'd throw that out there for the rest of the world. I didn't realize, I knew the new moon was coming in. I don't have a calendar in front of me. It's on my phone, but I knew it was soon, right? So here we are at the looks like we're at the new moon. I was unaware that normally I look those things up before I come on the show to mention those things. However, right, good stuff right there, right? Oh yeah, right. Estes, love Estes, very nice, good music, right? For those of you who don't know who that is, you should look that person up and play and listen to the music. If you like guitar at all, acoustic guitar and harmonic resonance, yeah, guys, you should look into that, right? Yeah, no, I did talk about that earlier, Risen. You weren't here. The planetary alignment. I've been talking about mostly that for the last 2.5 hours, honestly. Talking about that alignment, and we've been talking about the alignment and aligning the chakras, 7 planets in alignment, 7 chakras lining up, using the energy of those right now to align yourself today before it goes away, right? Yeah, no, I had. You just hadn't gotten here, right? If it hasn't been mentioned, I literally, most of what we've been talking about is that and aligning yourself, and what people are going through with the headaches and some of the solar plexus with the issues with food in the last week leading up to this, and specifically the last few days. Okay, let's continue with Raw. And then, yeah, so new moon, new season, Reese said. New moon, new season. And yes, that's right. We didn't bring that up, did we? Today's the first official day of autumn if you're in the southern hemisphere, and the first official day of moving into spring if you're up here in the northern hemisphere. I don't know if they have an official today, but it is the equinox for the world currently, as we're shifting and moving back lower from the sun. Yeah, we're moving back below the sun now, so we will get more light we're getting more light in the northern hemisphere, and you guys are going to get less light in the southern hemisphere as we dip down below the sun. The sun's here. We're now moving like this down below the sun in our orbit is descending below the sun, and so we'll get more light in the northern hemisphere, and you guys will get less light in there. So new moon, new season, new beginnings, right at the alignment of the planets. New moon, new season at the alignment. Equinox at the alignment is not done on accident by the universe, right? So there's a lot that you guys should be paying attention to for today and tonight, depending on where in the world you are, whether it's daytime or becoming nighttime. With the energies that's going on, if you're aware of your own energies, you should be doing something for that, for yourself and for the planet, which I'm working on like around the clock here and specifically today. All right, let's continue with Ra.
Ra, I am Ra. This instrument has an increased sensitivity to all stimuli. It is well that it use prudence. 81.11 Questioner, going back to the previous session, picking up on the 10th archetype, which is the catalyst of the body or the wheel of fortune, which represents interaction with other selves. Is this a correct statement? Ra, I am Ra. This may be seen to be a roughly correct statement in that each catalyst is dealing with the nature of those experiences entering the energy web and vibratory perceptions of the mind/body/spirit complex.
Right. So I'm not sure about that either, about the Adar or Adar, however you say it in Judaism. I'm not 100% sure of that either, but that sounds right. Right. But that's something to look into. And a lot of prophecy this year. Yeah, we don't talk about that very much on here, but I talk about that off camera a lot more than I do on camera these days. But there is a lot of prophecy this year, 2025. They'll be, dealing with the Pope directly. There'll be some of that that's going on. Peter has a post that he was talking about that before the Pope was in emergency room, but I hear tell that he's doing a little bit better. But Peter talked about the Pope stepping down very soon. And then the dark Pope coming in, the last Pope coming in, the one that's being ruled by the Antichrist, according to the prophecy that is what is it now? It's almost 1,000-year-old prophecy. So yeah, there's a lot of prophecy that is going to be manifest between now and 2050, let alone 2025. 2025 is a masculine year, so it's a 9-year, and then 2026 is going to be a feminine year, and then that's a 0 or a 1 year, right? I would have to look at all of the alignments there. 2 and 2 and 6, that's 10, so it's a 1 year, right? So we're back to 0 again. So 9 to 0, it's a 0-point year. It's a feminine year for 2026. So you're going to have a lot more strife this year and then healing next year. But that's and a lot of prophecy going forward. 2025 all the way up to 2030, 2032, 2033. And then moving out to 2050, there's going to be a lot of stuff, but specifically 2030, 2032, 2033, 2031 is going to be a little bit more strife, and up to and including them trying to come up with a new COVID in 2030. It's only 5 years away. They're going to get desperate and try to give us a pandemic again. They'll call it something different, but they're going to try again in 2030. They're waiting 5 years because people will forget about being defiant with the shots, and they're going to try it again. Mark my words, 2030, it's going to happen. And then that's going to create even more change for 2032 and 2033. And you guys should look into what is the 2000-year anniversary of the death of Jesus Christ. You should look into that. That will be determined by determining exactly when he was born. We know the pretty much the date of it, but it's not what they say it is. I was just talking to somebody about that. We've done a lot of study. There's scholars around the world that talk about that. They're like, oh, it's December 25th, really? Because according to the church, who tells you that Jesus was born on December 25th, Mary got pregnant with Jesus on like the 11th or the 17th of December. So either he was born in a week and a half, or he was born in 12 months, a week and a half, not 9. Because if he was born 9 months from the conception date, his birthday is September 10th or 11th, not December. 9 months from that date is second week in September. Okay. So Jesus was born in the second week of September. And what month or in what year is sort of fluctuates from 0 all the way back to 4 AD. So if he was born 4 AD, the 2000-year anniversary is second week in September 2027. If he was born at 0 point, which is what most people think, but I don't necessarily know that. If he was, it'll be September 2033 because he died at the age of 33. So somewhere between 2027 and 2033 is the 2000th year anniversary of the ascension of Jesus Christ. Okay. So you guys need to look into that, right? So the 666, Risen said, what about the 666? 666 is not what people think it is. It's the mark of the devil. 666 is the number of the beast. That is the number of man. That is the actual translation from the Bible. But nowadays, in the newer versions of that Bible, it is a number of man. Okay, so it doesn't mean what you think it means. It's not the mark of the devil. 666 is 6 neutrons, 6 proton, and 6 electrons. That is what this place is made of. That is what this flesh pain body is made of. 6 electrons, 6 protons, 6 neutrons. You can look it up. Okay. So 666, the number of the beast, is this reality, third dimensional reality, is the beast. This matrix is the beast. Living in the flesh is the beast. So you are either living in the flesh or you're living in the spirit while you're here. That's heaven and hell, irrespective. Heaven in the living in the spirit, hell living in the flesh. So 666, that number, is those items which create and make this place. Everything that's here that is a carbon-based unit is 6 carbon, 6 neutrons, 6 protons, or 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, 6 protons. Okay, that's what creates the third dimensional reality. Okay, so that's what that means. It's not a human number. It is the human number. It is the number of the humans, the number of man living in the flesh. You choose to either live in the flesh and be self-serving, or you choose to live in the spirit, which is service to all. Okay, so people don't understand that whole 666 thing and how that even means it and what it means. They think of the number 6, 3 sixes means the devil. You know, like the devil has it tattooed on his forehead. It is literally a metaphor for the building blocks of this three-dimensional reality. All three-dimensional realities, everything in that dimensionality throughout all of the multiverses, the building blocks are identical. And then there's just slight changes to it. So 666 is not a scary number, and neither is the number 13. The number 13 used to be a number to ward off evil until the Pope in Rome and the Temple Knight, or the Pope in Rome and the King of France decided to take all their money and all of their power and all of their land from them, and they arrested them on Friday the 13th, October Friday the 13th, 1207, at 7 a.m. Zulu time, Greenwich Mean Time, GMT. They arrested as many of the Knights Templars they could. 99% of the Knights disappeared with all of their ships, all of their weapons, all of their horses, and all of their gold, and all of their men, and all of their equipment, and never to be seen again. Okay, and they just confiscated the land that they had, and that's all they got. Okay, so the number became, if you were on the list that they had, it was you were unlucky, and so the number 13 became synonymous with that list on that day. And now, since 1207 to 2024, it has now evolved into the number 13 is evil in some way and unlucky, and oh no, and oh, be afraid of it. That's just like if you see a black cat. Oh my God, I can't walk where the black cat walked, or I'll die. You're not going to die. If you believe it, you're going to die because you're going to make it happen to yourself. It's going to be bad luck. I broke a mirror. Oh no, I opened an umbrella inside the house. Therefore, I'm going to get divorced, and I'm going to fall down and hit my head and die now because I opened up an umbrella inside of a house. That's children's fables for children who are afraid of the dark, and they don't understand reality, and they're uneducated, and so therefore, they're like, if you say the word 666, it's like saying Beetlejuice 3 times. The devil's going to come get you. You know what I mean? So yeah, right. Yeah, Risen said, yeah, I'm not superstitious, right? So yeah, so some people are, and it's just. They're just missing out. They don't understand what's happening. And they're like, oh no, the sky's falling. And when you become, one way or the other, when you make a choice, you either become in service to self or in service to others, and you start that ascension on either side, you learn that it's not, that you don't become afraid of those things anymore, because you become wiser. Even if you're evil, you become wiser. And if you're good, you become wiser. And when you become wiser, you see those things and you go, that's not what that means. Because you start to unlock actual knowledge and you start to realize that it doesn't mean any of that stuff. Right. And black cats, right. Black cats are actually lucky. And they were famously, the black cats were lucky cats. Cats in general, cats protect your immortal soul. Dogs protect your physical body. So cats in general and black cats usually have green eyes, and green-eyed cats can see better into the etheric field, to the ether or into the astral than cats with blue eyes or brown eyes. So black cats almost exclusively, rarely, I have never seen a black cat that didn't have green eyes. They always have green eyes, and those cats can see better. So they were sought after by anybody who knew, because they were better protectors. I have a cat, she has green eyes, and she's not a black cat, but she's a Siberian, and she has green eyes, and she can see. Anybody who has a cat that has green eyes, they're the ones that'll look and see things. And people are like, that one's crazy. She seems to look and sees, and there's nothing there. There's something there. You just don't see it. There's something there. You just don't see it. Let's continue.
The most carefully noted addition would be that the outside stimulus of the Wheel of Fortune is that which offers both positive and negative experience. 81.12 Questioner. The 11th archetype, the experience of the body, represents the catalyst that has been processed by the mind/body/spirit complex and is called the enchantress because it produces further seed for growth. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. 81.13 Questioner. We have already discussed the significator, so I will skip to number 13. Transformation of body is called death, for with death the body is transformed to a...
And right on cue, Ra starts talking about the number 13. Or Dawn starts talking about the number 13, asking Ra. Okay, let's continue here.
Higher vibration body for additional learning. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct and may be seen to be additionally correct in that each moment and certainly each diurnal period of the bodily incarnation offers death and rebirth to one which is attempting to use the catalyst which is offered it. 81.14 Questioner. And finally, the 14th, the way of the body is called the alchemist because there is an infinity of time for the various bodies to operate within to learn the lessons necessary for evolution. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is less than completely correct, as the great way of the body must be seen, as are all the archetypes of the body, to be a mirror image of the thrust of the activity of the mind. The body is the creature of the mind and is the instrument of manifestation for the fruits of mind and spirit. Therefore, you may see the body as providing the aether through which the alchemist manifests gold. 81.15 Questioner. I have guessed that a way that I could enter into a better comprehension of the development experience that is central to our work is to compare what we experience now, after the veil was dropped, with what was experienced prior to that time, starting possibly as far back as the beginning of this octave of experience, to see how we got into the condition we're in now. If this is agreeable, I would like to retreat to the very beginning of this octave of experience to investigate the conditions of mind, body, and spirit as they evolved in this octave. Is this satisfactory? Acceptable? Ra. I am Ra. The direction of questions is your provenance. 81.16 Questioner. RA states that it has knowledge of only this octave, but it seems that RA has complete knowledge of this octave. Can you tell me why this is? Ra. I am Ra. Firstly, we do not have complete knowledge of this octave. There are portions of the 7th density which, although described to us by our teachers, remain mysterious. Secondly, we have experienced a great deal of the available refining catalyst of this octave, and our teachers have worked with us most carefully that we may be one with all, that in turn our eventual returning to the great allness of creation shall be complete. 81.17 Questioner. Then RA has knowledge from the first beginnings of this octave through its present experiences, what I might call direct or experiential knowledge through communication with those space/times and time/spaces, but has not yet evolved to or penetrated the 7th level. Is this a roughly correct statement? Ra. I am Ra. Yes. 81.18 Questioner. Why does our...
Okay, hold on. I'm going to stop there because it's getting later. It's almost 5:45 over here. So I'm going to have to get my mother up and get her in the shower and then get us some dinner. So if you guys have any last final questions or thoughts, let me know now because I'm going to have to go soon so I can get up and do that and get my mom in the shower and get dinner for her and I. Okay. So I'll back up. I put down question 15 as the stop point. So 8115, I believe. Let me double check that right now. Yeah, 8115. I'll put that down as the stop point, and we'll pick up there. So we did really good, though. We were able to get through 2 full sessions, right? Basically, because it was half of one session, one whole session, and then 15 questions or so of this session. So we started on question 15 of back there. So we're doing pretty good there. Sorry, my eyes are got stuff in them now that I'm touching them, making it even worse. Right? Okay, so we did good there getting through that. So we'll go on to session 81, question 15, and start there next week and then move forward from there. But that's good that we covered the archetypes. Weirdly, it happened right at all these alignments, new moon, solstice, and galactic alignment when we were talking about all of that and actually doing all of that and upgrading. So if you're out there in the world and you're hearing this and it's still today for you, it's still the 28th, not the 29th yet, and your 29th hasn't ended yet, know that the alignment is still happening and it's going out of alignment. So the energy is still there. Like Joanne said, utilize the energy of those 7 planets, which are representing 7 chakras that are lined up, and balance those 7 chakras and archetypes, because it's like Reese said, new moon, new solstice, so new season. So it's the beginning, and the beginning. Reset yourself on the beginning and go with this new moon. There's a lot. I'll guarantee you there are people around the world having all kinds of rituals going on today because of all of these alignments happening at a new moon, at the solstice, with this planetary alignment lining up with the sun and the center of the Milky Way galaxy. This is an insane thing. So for those of you out there in the world that are having headaches, that are having vision problems, so that it's literally your vision is a little blurry and you're like, my God, do I need to go to a doctor and get my eyes checked? Give it until tomorrow. Because and then if you're having problems with eating food or being able to eat at all and you can't sleep and you're hearing my voice somewhere around the world, fear not. Don't let your heart be troubled. This is going to wane in the next 24 hours because all the alignment's going to go out of effect, and you're going to be at the beginning of the new moon, or at the and moving forward and the season is changing. So all of that is going to change, and you'll be able to get some rest. You'll be able to eat some food. The headaches will subside. Your vision will clear up. Just drink a lot of fluids. Ground yourself. Center yourself. Focus yourself. Align your chakras. Utilize the energy that's here to align your chakras naturally, so that you don't have to spend any. But make sure you have comfort food and liquids around, because you're going to burn through that stuff when you do that. But if you're out there in the world, most likely, if you already know all of this information, you're already doing it, or you've planned on doing it, or you got done doing it, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. All right, guys, I love you guys. I will see you guys either in the chat, or I'll see you on Wednesday in the Zoom call if you guys are interested in that. And if you are and you're listening and you get a hold of me or one of the other people from the chat, if you can't get into the chat because you're not on Messenger, find me on one of the platforms and message me on one of the platforms, because I'm on all the platforms. Look up my name. I'm on Instagram. I can't say all the platforms because there are literally 100,000 platforms. But I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and X. Did I miss anybody? And if you're listening to the MP3 broadcast, that means that your app is there that you're listening to me on. If you're not listening to me on the Podbean app or podbean.com, then you can go to podbean.com and look up Orion Rising, or go to www.orionrising.podbean.com, and you can then message me there or get in contact with me in my email to send me an email. And I do check my email. I just don't check it every day. But you can get a hold of me. I'm out there. You can find me or look at me up on one of these other platforms that you may not like, like Facebook or YouTube, because you can message me on YouTube. I post reels on all of those platforms, or shorts, whatever you want to call them, every day. So I'm constantly checking. So you can even go into a reel and make a comment in the reel to get in contact with me, and I read those. I check every platform that I post on every day. When I post a new thing there, I check the last few to see if there's any new comments, if I didn't notice it on my phone that somebody made a comment. So if you really want to get in contact with me, you can go to wherever one of these platforms that you already have, and you can go in and talk to me in there, and then we can make ways of making direct communication with each other from that. And that's what I tell people. So if you have questions for me and you want to contact me and you want to ask questions about spirituality and you want guidance, you can reach me on those platforms. And if you want, we have a Zoom call on Wednesdays on my day Wednesday at my time, Pacific time, West Coast America time at 3 p.m. That's GMT -7, might be GMT -8 these days because we had a time change, but we'll be springing forward soon. But you can look that up too, where it's off air, not recorded, so that if you guys want to come in and ask questions to have them answered, you can do that there. If not, you can contact me directly, and I will work with you and answer any questions that you have, right? So what is it Cassie saying? The post I put in the group from, what is that? Is that Los Joe, or is it Jos Dispenza? Is that how you say it? Jose? Was it supposed to be Jose? Was there supposed to be an E on there? Dispenza was telling how to utilize the current alignment. Oh, I didn't know that. So let me put that up there. I don't know if that's the first name is Jos, and it could be, and I'm thinking it should be Jose. I apologize if it was not, and I was misinterpreting that. Right. So Dispenza, Jos, I think, was telling how to utilize the current alignment. That's cool, Cassie. I didn't know that. So Cassie put a link, it looks like, in the group, which is the group chat on Messenger for the Law of One class chat, on how to utilize that. For those of you who are around the world listening on the MP3 file, if you're not, or the MP3 broadcast, if you're not on Messenger, you won't be able to do that, but you can look up Jos Dispenza and probably find that video. I don't know where Cassie got it from. Was that video from YouTube, Cassie? So it's Joe, Joe. She forgot the E, so it wasn't supposed to be Jose with an E at the end. The S was supposed to be the E, and it was a typo. So Joe Dispenza, Joe Dispenza, Dispensa, Joe Dispenza. And I think she was saying that it was YouTube because she said, "You betcha." So you guys can look that up. If you can't get into there to see the link that she put, you can find Joe Dispenza online if you're interested in that before this alignment goes away, and watch the video from Joe Dispenza, probably on YouTube, and you can then see what Cassie was talking about and possibly aid you into using this alignment to align yourself and help yourself. So that's a really good resource, Cassie. I was unaware of that because I haven't checked. I was so busy today, I haven't had time to even look at the Law of One chat. Had I known that, I could have brought that up. But I thank you for bringing that up because I have not been in there to look. Shelly, welcome. I didn't even know you were there, Shelly. I apologize if I didn't say hi to you earlier. I thought maybe, no, I don't remember if I did or not. So I'll either see you guys in the Law of One chat after the show, or I'll see you guys on Wednesday at the Zoom, or back here next Friday for the Law of One, where we'll continue. And in the interim, like I said, if you want to contact me, you can. And I will, I work with people. I try to work with as many people as I can. I am kind of busy some days. Other days, nobody talks to me. And then other days, I have 10 people lined up in one day asking me questions. Not a joke. Happens. Yesterday happened to be one of those days where I didn't have a moment of thought. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday were like that for me this week because of what's going on with this alignment. I have a lot of people asking me questions and talking to me, and that I'm working with. So I've been really busy. Literally on Tuesday, even Wednesday, I spoke from 9 a.m. to 2 o'clock in the morning each day. And on Thursday, today's Friday, so yesterday was the first day I went to sleep before 2 a.m. for the last week because of how many people are in duress and not realizing what's happening. And I've been working with them, trying to assist them. And I know a lot of other of you out there that I talk to regularly are doing the same thing and having the same issues, not sleeping, but not because you're just not able to sleep, That's part of it, but not sleeping because you as well are working with a bunch of people. All of that's going to start to wane after tomorrow, and you guys will start to simmer down a little bit, and you'll figure it out, and things will go back to a resemblance of normal, right? So Cassie said yes, YouTube. Thank you, Cassie, for that clarification. So go onto YouTube, look up Joe Dispenza, and there will be a video that Joe Dispenza has on YouTube that you guys can look up to help you with utilizing this solstice, new moon, solstice for the planet and the galactic alignment or the planetary alignment at the exact same time, all on the same date, all at the same time. A lot of energy that will help you to fix what you have going on with you if you are not able to sleep, if you've had headaches, if you have blurry eyes, if you have problems with eating food and not needing to eat much food right now. All of those things, some people are having all of them happen. I love you guys. It'll fix itself in the next couple of days, and we can all get some rest, right? I love you guys. I love you guys. Have a great night. This has been Orion Rising. I have been your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. Have a great evening.